Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
After two consecutive oval races, the IndyCar Thrustmaster iRacing Pro Series finishes off 2026 with a trip to two road courses. And you, the fans, have spoken for our penultimate round of the season for the titles setting up showdown. We head to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. Hi folks, Arjuna Kankipati, joined alongside as ever by the ever-wonderful Kenneth Bueno. And KB, what fun we've had those last 2 weeks, stretching our legs on the ovals. But now with the title on the line, it's time to head to two road courses to settle the crown.
We've had the dichotomy of ovals versus road courses, who has been the best on both sides of the ball, but really now it comes down to how consistent can you be at two very difficult to drive road courses, and it starts tonight at Mid-Ohio. These final two will be characterized by the elevation change and a ton of tire wear as well. Very abrasive surfaces. That'll surely bring some fun in the strategy, and that makes these drivers think a lot harder if they want to defend or attack for the championship in a few weeks.
And therefore, qualifying as ever going to be important, but strategy, I think that's going to be crucial. Let's talk about, well, what we saw last time out when we went racing at what was a short oval, but with plenty of downforce. The National Super Speedway delivered a bit more of a pack-style race. Yes, Powerslide Motorsports team hype once more. A couple of their drivers showed up in qualifying, but for the first time ever, Redline delivered in qualifying on an oval. And KB, as we navigated the two wide and on occasion three wide scenarios, a couple of key talking points that stood out. Restarts were a trouble, and the deeper we went into the race, the hungrier our drivers got.
Yeah, we had a lot of those single file restarts, and a lot of it was described by chaos at the back, drivers ending up getting checked up, but this was what it was all about. Pack style racing at over 190, 200 miles an hour. And then we had a bit of strategy midway through. Kwame Scott with probably the best save of the season, entering pit road without getting a penalty, but Redline showed up for sure. Arjuna, they put themselves at the front, and even though this race was basically full of all this close pack racing, and yes, the contact occasionally, and yes, the occasional bump on the restart, it was really the matter of putting yourself in the right place at the right time and hoping that the chaos would open itself up right before you get there.
And so one of the drivers that put himself in the greatest position was Diogo Pinto. He battled Alexander Van der Sande to take the lead. But behind Jacob Oster, a bit of drama as Adam Blocker got tangled up with one of those red line machines, and it led to a sprint to the end. What more could you ask for? Pinto would dominate the low line as the likes of Oster and some of our Nexus Esports entries would search up high as well. But as we ran our way back to the line,
What do you like about
took the
Corey?
apron as well, but Diogo Pinto held on to grab victory. This is the 2026 Raw, our defending series champion, and and now points leader for Michele Costantini.
I can tell you
Victory,
all
however,
about
for
it.
Costantini.
I mean,
The one and only, a first
I'm
and
excited
second
because
place finish
it's
at set
insane.
here. 15 points to the good over fellow IndyCar community member Phil Kraus. However, Romanidis, McEwen, Leo, and Pinto Bueno, those will be the drivers we're keeping our eye on to put the pressure on in these final two races.
And the last two have fully been all about Phil Kraus and drivers like Alex Russell. In what way could they step up in several places to be able to put themselves as a force in this championship? But no one has been able to put a candle to Costantini's run since Indianapolis. Since winning that race, he has been on a tear. And we mentioned how Pinto won the strategy last season by being the most consistent driver. He's done that in a first two races schedule that was really described by chaos and parity and qualifying not mattering. It's been that way for Costantini, and I think 15 points, although it's pretty narrow entering Mid-Ohio with 2 races to go, Arjuna, as we were talking about before the show, he has a lot more to defend than attack, and that's sort of a good place to be in.
Diogo Pinto sits just outside the bubble, need to be within 50 points heading to the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for our final round of the championship. We've had 6 different winners in 6 different races, and therefore would you be surprised to hear that in terms of pole sitters, well, only one driver, Michele Costantini, has been able to repeat. And so as we land here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, it was between this and the Barber Motorsports Park KB on our fan vote. And our IndyCar fans have had their say, and we return to Mid-Ohio after Eduardo Leo grabbed the win here in 2024.
We had a ton of chaos here last season, especially out in Turn 1, but such a unique and wonderful road course out in Lexington, Ohio. 2.25 miles, 3.6 kilometers on a clockwise circuit that is 13 turns long. You look at that second sector, all of those bends after Turn 4, China Beach, and the S's and Thunder Valley going to be characteristically hard to pass at. The keyhole, turns 1 through 3 are going to be the best places to watch for. Track had the first road course race back in 1962, and like you said, Eduardo Leo has won here before. He did it back in 2024, and he's one of those that is prepping himself up for at least a chance at pushing himself to the championship in these final two. But with all the elevation and the abrasive track surface, this is going to bring that proper challenge of strategy and being disciplined enough to put that car on all 4 wheels by the checkered flag.
And what a race we are going to be in for. Slightly warmer track temperatures might be in strategy between the alternate tire and the primary tire. Could be pivotal as strategists once more take center stage. But let's take a look at the starting grid for the penultimate round of the 2026 IndyCar Thrustmaster iRacing Pro Series, and this says a lot. First page of the results for qualifying, dominated by Redline as they try and support Luke McEwen on his run to the title. But for the very first time, Gustavo Ariel on pole position will be alongside that McEwen machine of the 96. Pinto and Labigra split row 2, while Coiter and Webster row 3, both hoping for some redemption after last week. Josh Thompson ends the sea of Redline at the front, and Alessandro Bico becomes the first non-Redline machine in the Williams F1 Team Gaming 77. Vasilios Speliciotis, his best qualifying effort of the season split row 5 with points leader Michele Costantini, while Dan Amor and Michael Romanidis will share row 6. We are talking fine margins through the field. 0.2 of a second down to Jaden Munoz, winner of course on the streets of Portland earlier this season. He's alongside of Peter Berryman, someone that's had a, well, unfortunate championship to say the least. Phil Kraus has got some work to do, but we know he can carve his way through on the road courses. Nicholas Matteo to his outside in 16th spot, while Sotomuto, the second of the Williams F1 Team Gaming machines, has David Toth, the Hungarian, to split row number 9. Bookending the top 20, make our way down to Ricardo Rico, and that other red line machine, Eduardo Leo, loses a couple of tenths in qualifying, and it puts him down 10 rows on the starting grid. Esteban Rodriguez and Tamas Shimon behind 21st and 22nd. Alex Betts will be frustrated with that qualifying effort all the way down in 23rd. He's alongside of Jacob Oster in that team Hype and Powerslide Motorsports entry. Rob Malechka, Pablo Espez behind 24th 5th and 26th, while Kwame Scott and Adam Blocker split 27th and 28th respectively. Bal Impala, Alexander Van der Sant as we get towards the tail end of those with times on the board. A little bit further adrift of their competitors. And just at the tail end, Alex Russell, Elliot Veyron, and Matteo Kenzer. 3 cars with no times on the board. We roll behind the pace car, and KB, a chance for us to talk about Thrustmaster race analysis. This race 40 laps in length, and we're not entirely sure what to expect from strategy.
We're not sure what to expect from the tire game, because at plenty of the other road courses we've seen this season, there has been a difference, a delta, an advantage to the red alternate tires versus the white wall, the primary tires. But it doesn't seem to be that big of a difference here tonight at Mid-Ohio, and it looks like for the case of the 40 laps we have here tonight and the 90 miles that we'll square off with, drivers are going to be searching for that exact halfway point, 20 laps. So whether you're on the reds or on the main white wall tires, it's going to be about nursing your car all the way to that halfway point at least before inevitably thinking about pit road. Remember, push to pass is in effect. You have to use both tire compounds. So after 2 weeks on the ovals, got to refresh ourselves back to the road course school and what these drivers have to do. And that's the graphic that shows you what it's like right now. Primary tires will give you the long-term advantage, although it will not have short-term speed. The alternates will have that short-term boost, but then will fall off much quicker. So top 7 on the primaries. Look at how many drivers are on the reds. Not many, Arjuna. So everyone's banking on that long-lasting tire for the start.
Now, if you were to run in clean air by yourself, the theoretical fastest strategy, maybe not with these slightly warmer track temperatures and winds, but would be to start on the primary tire, run maybe 22 odd laps by yourself, and then switch to the alternates. It's only, though, about a second and a half, maybe faster than some of the other choices you have. We're not talking big gains, and traffic around a track as short and congested as this could end up being pivotal as we head into the penultimate round, the 2026 IndyCar Thrustmaster iRacing Pro Series. It's redlining control here from Mid-Ohio as they look to support Luke McEwen on his charge to the title, and we get the green flag dropped at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course, and instantly that Williams F1 Team gaming machine gets the pressure put on it from behind as we work our way up towards the keyhole at turn 2. Single file, as you'd expect, KB, between the teammates at the front, and they're all chopping and changing behind as we have a bit of front wing flying through the air at the keyhole.
And that might have been one of the red line cars in the middle of this top 10, and you were watching Vasilios Pelletsiotis, the Blue Mercure car, just looking to the inside, trying to put himself in the top 10 again. That's what you have to do in a huge send, and he'll crash out. Sam Keitel to the entry of China Beach. That's turn 4. Had the grip at the entry of the corner, Arjuna had the inside line, but it appeared he got there too late. The corner narrowed up, and the 2 cars collect each other, and Sam Keitel going to be the first red line car, most likely out of the race on lap 1.
So consecutive races for Keitel where he will be classed as a DNF. It has been a torrid season for him, with only 1 result in the top 10. Every other race outside of the top 20. Lap 1 will be complete, and it's still red line 1 through 5. Josh Thompson passed by Alessandro Bico, and Dan Amor making a rocket of a start, actually, and jumping in front of, well, Michael Romanidis, but more importantly, Michele Costantini, still down there in 10th position, as we see the first users of the push to pass. 200 seconds allotted to our drivers through the course of this race, and already green lighting up as these drivers take advantage. It's not just push to pass, remember, though, push to defend, using it strategically across the 40 laps of racing. And already look at these gaps starting to build through the field as once more we dive into China Beach.
And you know, we mentioned in several other series how tire set limits can play the strategy for the drivers and the teams, and thinking about when they have to slap on tires and what they may have to do. Push to pass is the very same way. You get an extra 50 to 60 horsepower, so you just literally press a button, the car adds on the extra power, and then you're on your way, trying to either defend or make it a pass on a racetrack like you're watching Dan Amor attempt to do here in this third sector through Thunder Valley and moving to turn 12 and turn 13. But again, you have to sparingly use it. And here in Mid-Ohio, there's a more predictable way of using it, because you watch this main straightaway, you go into turn 1, this left-hander that kind of rises up a little bit. You reach a soft press before coming down to that little ditch there off of turn 1. Right here, these long straightaways, then off the keyhole, entering turns 3 and 4. That's where you're going to see a lot of that push to pass be implemented over the course of the race.
What we're seeing right now, though, KB, is the difference in tires on full display around the outside. Vico tries to make the move at the keyhole. But you can see Cooper Webster, no draft at play here as they give each other a wide berth. No side drafting games down into China Beach. Oh, Webster slams the door shut. That was a bit aggressive.
And again, that's one of those cars, the Williams machine of Alessandro Vico, who made his way up from 8th. He was the highest qualified driver on the alternate tires. So again, he's looking to kind of break up this whole red line coupe that's building up at the front of this field. Here's a look at Beliziotis. He's that blue car. Huge send entering turn 4. I mean, it didn't look like he was going to make the apex, but the contact had already occurred between himself and Kuijtert. So by the time the wheels touch Arjuna, they kind of hop over each other, and no matter what wheel input you put in, the car's not going to turn. They're both tangled together, and so there's nowhere to go but straight up into the grass. And we know a thing or two about the grass. There's no grip. You just slip right into the tire barrier.
Yeah, and you could tell there for Beliziotis, there was some frustration. He was not necessarily content to sit behind the rest of the red line train. Look on board with Gustavo Ariel as we look up front, but then a look at Phil Kraus, who is down on pit lane, and we'll get you a replay as soon as we can. But the driver that finished second in the points in 2024, well, championship hopes have just been extinguished. Back up as we roll our speed through turn 5. We'll head down into the S's once again. And Cooper Webster is playing that rear gunner action right now. Didn't join us for the first round of the season. There was a power outage in Australia that robbed him of a chance of competing. And last week, KB, Cooper Webster had those dreaded Windows issues. And so very much now, he is playing the team game. He's not doing anything wrong, though. We are getting closer to the crossover point between the tire. Anywhere from lap 8 to 11, the primaries will come good.
And you know, when you have a season like that, that's littered with a lot of these hardware and internet connection issues, at some point, especially for a team as large as Redline, you become a different player in the game. You know you're not going to run for the championship. Kind of hard to make up your season with the shorter campaign that we have here in 2026. So what do? You become a team player for Redline, and you say, if you're going to become the main defender, that kind of Ryan Newman-esque driver that's hard to pass on the racetrack, and someone who will kind of play along with the strategy and help you distinguish yourself out from the rest of the competition, that's what Cooper Webster is going to be like, and that's exactly what he's doing right now. Straight up wall that he's putting at the moment with these two drivers right behind him, and it looks like we finally do have a look as to what happened with Phil Kraus. And this was entering Thunder Valley, turn 8 and turn 9. Kraus, who qualified 15th. I mean, it's been all about road course success for Kraus trying to do that here in 2026. And it's just a large stack of plenty of cars get slowed up as a result of that checkup going up the hill. And a car goes up and over into the gravel, a huge piece of contact. And that's lap 1, by the way. So Kraus already down pit road and out of it.
Yeah, so Adam Blocker was the car that went aerial, but it was Sheza Esports. I couldn't quite figure out which entry it was, but David Toth, I think, got tangled up. He's been down to pit lane. Live points on the right side of your screen. Based on qualifying, we did kind of think it would end up being between Costantini and McEwen, and it's now 14 between the two of them. Costantini in 13th right now, has lost 3 positions from the start of this race. However, as we were talking about before we went on air, KB, for Costantini, as long as he finishes inside the top 10 in the next 2 races, he has got a very good chance of forcing McEwen to win the next 2 races in order to rip the championship away from him.
Yeah, he needs 2 home runs for McEwen in order to collectively make this a proper championship fight. You need to look at a driver like Romanidis as well. The best road course finish on average of everyone in this field at 7.2. Costantini, though, is not too far behind at about 9. So you look at what Romanidis has been able to do on the road courses, and you think 3rd in points, chance to win this championship. And then you look back in the mirror to the last 2 oval starts, top 12 finishes, where the qualifying effort had not been there for the Drago Racing entry. It was a lot harder for him to pick his way up through the field. He, like McEwen, also has to have a miraculous 2 races, including tonight, in order to put himself in that position. And that's where Costantini sits most comfortably. He did a lot of that hard work on the ovals, Arjuna, and has leveled out his playing field midway through the season, and it's allowed him to have a bit more of a relaxation and gap.
Wins at Indy, 2nd at Phoenix and Nashville. That's what set up Costantini in this great position. Average oval finish, 1.67. Look on the bottom. Ride with Adam Blocker. Oh, runs into Jacob Oster first, and then from there, I think the left front already has taken some damage. And, well, the Indy Next race engineer for Chip Ganassi Racing, his season in the real world gets underway about 13 days' time. Well, he's still got our season finale next week to try and put up a decent showing to close out this 2026 season as we recapture the fight for 5th position. Webster now 1.7 seconds off of Florian Lebigre, but maybe more crucially, it's about 3.5 seconds at the end of lap number 8 to Gustavo Ariel at the front of this queue. And remember what I'd said slightly earlier? Onto lap 8, by the way, end of lap 7. Crossover point between primary and alternate tire, anywhere from lap 8 to 11. So keep an eye out here now for the likes of Biko Amor to slip back, and for Costantini to maybe start making his way forward. And next up in the queue will be Nicholas Matteo in what could be a crucial move, dispatching of that white and red Drago Racing entry.
And that will be a huge win for Cooper Webster, who has pretty much been that defensive stance right in front of Biko and Dan Amor, because when that crossover point hits, I mean, that speed's not going to be there anymore. And to compensate for that, you look for the push-to-pass button, but as soon as you take your eyes off of the main straightaways and all these corners and you look towards that button, well, that car's still in front of you and the grip is not there anymore in the middle of the corner. So you have a feeling to look at where your options lie. And so just to push it to lap 8 is enough defensively for Webster to kind of lean his shoulders back a little bit, let his teammates take control of the front. And for Michele Costantini, I mean, he's dropped 3, but that's the discipline you have to have in this style of racing. When you say push to pass, you save your tires, you wait for a moment like this. Costantini has trusted his speed all season long, and it's given him great results ever since he won at Indianapolis.
He didn't get the win, though, at Mugello, as much as he wanted to maybe grab the win in his hometown race. It was fellow Italian Edoardo Leo that was able to capture it on strategy, let's not forget. Very similar to what we're seeing now when there's 2 calls, some starting on the primary, some on the alternate. It was Redline that chose correctly in the end, started on the alternates. Leo stormed to the lead and never really looked back. Meanwhile, Luke McEwen, who the oval stretch by no means took him out of contention. However, 9th at Indy, 17th and 20th at Phoenix and Nashville. For the driver who led the points after the first round of the season, of course, our winner of the opening round of the season, hasn't found it so easy since then, and looking a little bit relaxed right now, I would say.
Yeah, definitely in a good position. And you watch the top 3, and combined, they have wasted about, 13 push-to-pass seconds, 5 seconds used for McEwen, 7 seconds used for Diogo Pinto. So it really has been actually 12 seconds combined between those 2 cars. And just because they had such a gap up at the front of this field and they've been able to stretch their legs, have a bit of that distance to play with, and because Cooper Webster has been so defensive these first few laps, it's allowed that gap to just naturally grow. And with the tire wear, it's going to get even more troublesome for Biko and Amor to press the attack. Good fight for 18th and 19th. This is Mateo Quenzer is 25, Kwame Scott right behind, and what a performance for Nexus Esports Arjuna last week. Esteban Rodriguez had a top 10 finish, his best finish of the season. Kwame Scott, also a fantastic effort, his best finish since Long Beach, way early in the campaign after a ton of the field crashed on lap 1 and lap 2. So to see Kwame Scott after a whale of a save and a comeback from Nashville working into the top 20 here, and just this back half of the battle shaping up.
It was an interesting excursion for Nexus Esports last time out. That first time I think we've actually been able to see them carry forward that eNASCAR experience onto the ovals. Of course, big smile there from Kwame Scott, but by no means the stock car and an Indy car on an oval, set up in the same ways. It's not as simple as, oh, they're quick in eNASCAR, they'll be quick in IndyCar as well. But at the end of the day, they have shown some speed, and maybe more importantly, they're having some fun. The eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series qualifying series has just picked up once again. That's a grind. This is an opportunity for Scott and for several other drivers to do something slightly different. And you know what? He is enough of an Indianapolis fan that in the background of that camera shot, he has got the speed limit sign you can buy from the Pagoda shop. Cross out the slow speed limit slap on 215 miles an hour. Dan Amor still tucked up behind Cooper Webster, but guess what? Biko has set himself free in 5th.
He finally got around. That was at the back skirts of turns 12 and 13, and then into turn 2, the keyhole here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. That's where Webster pointed his nose to the inside in an attempt to potentially wave Pico out of the way in the first 2 lanes and maybe have him wash out of the exit of turn 2, but that really has opened up that gap. And again, passing lap here, we passed that crossover point, so for a driver like Dan Amor, going to get increasingly difficult to try and make up speed at this juncture of the race. And then you turn to that push to pass button, and you can do that right now, but then you think about it, all right, well, if I waste so much of it before halfway here in this race, what can I play with other than some fresh tires at some point that will inevitably wear down later in the race?
Here comes a move as sliding up the inside goes Michele Costantini, finally able to break the barrier in front. That was Nicolas Matteo in the Drago Racing Machine as we work the 12th lap of this race. Going back to Amor for a second, joining Coanda Esports last year, or last championship year, he was with, of course, the Apex Racing team. Coanda Esports, it's a very different lineup that we see them competing with in 2026. Remember, in 2024, they had the likes of Jordan Caruso, and I think 5 of their cars on the grid. Now it's just Elliot Veyron and Dan Amor, which is a hard task for just 2 drivers to combine and find speed. But they've done a good job so far as they battle for their share of the $50,000 prize pool in this IndyCar Thrustmaster iRacing Pro Series. Winner to walk away with $20,000. That went to Diogo Pinto in 2024. $12,000 for second. But all the way down to 15th, KB, there is a little bit of prize money paid out.
Yeah, there is, and also the chance for these final 2 races to allow some of those drivers to just squeeze into the top 10, because from 11 to 15 and then 6 to 10, that's a difference of $500 more. That's a pretty sizable difference in the cash prize you get at the end of the season. And you look at those drivers hovering around the point scenario at that point. Alexander Spetz, Nicolas Matteo, who we talked about not that long ago, behind Costantini, Gustavo Ariel, who's the race leader. So if he's able to capture most laps led, winning the race and dominating, he can be able to squeeze his way up to the top 10. Robert Malechka, you know, Alessandro Vico, who's top 10 right now, a chance to also move up a couple spots in these final 2 races. So, I mean, it doesn't make that big of a difference when you think about, you know, the overall championship, and they're not fighting for the title right now. But if you can go away with $500 extra, I think that's a pretty good win if you're able to recover your season in the way that you can.
As we ride with Jaden Munoz, you've just reminded me in terms of recovery, Jaden was the one that picked up the pieces when Luke McEwen and Alexander Spetz decided to run into each other twice at the Portland International Raceway. Luke McEwen might take umbrage with that characterization of events. He was on the outside, driven into, he would potentially argue. In front of Jaden Munoz, got a couple of drivers from the Drago Racing camp. Peter Berryman, not had the easiest season by any means for a former iRacing world champion. And slightly further up the queue is Michael Romanidis, remember, in the points conversation, but unfortunately, with now Luke McEwen sliding in front of Gustavo Ariel, Diogo Pinto, Florian Lebigra still running in the tire tracks as we close on the halfway mark in this race. It's not quite advantage McEwen. Costantini will still have the points lead. But Costantini's got some work to do now, KB, to ensure he's got a bigger gap heading into WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
Well, if you're Luke McEwen, like we said, you have to hit a home run, a grand slam in these last 2 races, and if you could do that tonight here at Mid-Ohio, that's the most you can do. This is the replay that was off of turn 2, the keyhole, and then right on the push to pass button, using all of that extra horsepower, 50 to 60 horsepower, to move on by his teammate Gustavo Ariel, and then slide on to the inside entry turn 4, right as you get to China Beach, which really the second sector of Mid-Ohio, that's the hardest place to pass at because of all this narrowness and a lack of runoff. And look at how much that did for his championship fight. That's what you have to do. Even if Costantini still has the upper hedge and the high ground right now, McEwen has to do literally whatever is possible to go out and win these races, and now he's within single digits given that pass for the lead. So it works out right now, 5 laps before halfway.
And I think Costantini now thinking, right, if I get a top 10, that's solid points on the board. Anything more than that, and I've made life a lot harder for McEwen. However, as we watch Michele, car off into the grass in front of him, a little bit nervy there for other championship contender Michael Romanidis, who gets passed by Jaden Munoz as a result of that. Dan Amor blinks at the end of lap 15. That is as early as I think you can dare to pick. He has decided that 25 laps on those prime tires may be a bit of clean air, KB, is what his Coanda Esports machine needs on the run to the checkered flag.
Yeah, and you want to do whatever you can in the top 10 to differentiate yourself over the group. And of course, with Amor using the alternate tires to start, it's almost like a forced hand. You have to fold in that sense, and you have to give away your cards, and you won't win the chips on this round. But you're hoping that the compensation for that as we go through halfway is that you can cycle up in front, distance yourself from the pack behind you, and then ultimately try to hold on to that gap for as much as you can. But knowing the sector of this race, I think he's realistically looking at another top 10 approach and thinking if he can put himself back there through the cycle, that'll matter a ton. But for Costantini, I mean, this is pouncing attack. If he could only see the points right now, I'm sure maybe he's getting told it in his ear that the gap is 4. Maybe not panicking at the moment, but he knows there's fresh meat right in front with Romanidis, Munoz, and Berryman all collected together. And given the Romanidis mistake entering turn 11, that's right in the place where Costantini can try and fire, as Alex Van de Sande appears to have trouble in the back. And there's one of those other cars on pit road.
Remember, Alex Van de Sande had such a great showing last time. Really thought he could have fought for the win if not for the unfortunate incident. Meanwhile, top 7 all on the button as they stretch their legs down the back straightaway, which of course in the real world, right around here is where the cars actually start the initial race. They start on the back straightaway. Slightly different starting procedure to what we often see. It means the run through here, China Beach, often a little bit more interesting. As you see the lap times for Costantini, he is not far off the leaders, and on occasion when he's had a sniff of clean air has been quick, but no clean air to be found through the S's. Definitely not a passing opportunity. And what he's hoping for is Romanidis to peel off to driver's left-hand side, working through the long final corner, turn 12, and down to pit lane, but does not play ball. In fact, in many ways, Romanidis' probably best strategy here, KB, is to frustrate Costantini, cost him some time.
Yeah, and he's got more push to pass as well, even though he's got the worn down alternate tires. Costantini, because he's been having to push so much in this run, now that he's lost a couple spots to begin the race, he's now only at 149 seconds eligible left on the push to pass, and Romanidis is going to use it right now. So this is the proper textbook move of defending while somebody uses the push to pass to play the offense and attack entering turn 4. As long as you can maintain at least a 0.3 of a second gap, maybe 2 car lengths full entering the corner, you understand that maybe there's not going to be a situation like Veliziotis and a big dive in turn 4.
Today's coverage of the IndyCar Thrustmaster iRacing Pro Series is brought to you by Thrustmaster and the T598 steering wheel. Feel racing sensations like never before with T598 and its direct axial drive motor, the new generation of direct drive. This motor allows the perfect clear wheel rim motion with no cogging for high-fidelity force feedback. Scan the QR code to learn more as Thrustmaster drives you into a new era of sim racing. On board in this pit sequence, Alessandro Bico, the next to dive down towards the pit lane as well up front. Our 4 red line machines all exit off the keyhole in unison. Good stop for Bico. It was only just updated, 8.1 seconds, and he's going to end up, I think, in front of Dan Amor as well.
He will, and what we've seen this entire race are players like Bico and Costantini and Romanidis and Dan Amor looking to neutralize the superpower, but for right now, they can only watch in silence over this pit road sequence as we approach halfway, given how dominant this sector of the field has been for these red and blue red line cars. And you think about what they did in the last couple rounds, Phoenix was such a struggle for them, Arjuna. They qualified poorly at the very back of the field. Took them such a long time to build up any semblance of rhythm. And then by that point, I mean, you were only mustering a top 15 and maybe on the occasion a close top 10. But then at Nashville Super Speedway, what a turnaround it was for them to make their move. And there are more drivers down pit road. Romanidis is going to be one of them, following Jaden Munoz. So I guess that theory that we had, Arjuna, of him trying to frustrate Costantini didn't last that long.
I think he got past, and that was part of the reason why he did dive down to pit lane. Now, we will reach the halfway mark of this race next time by. Do the red line contingent at the front split this call up? Do they send a couple of their drivers, maybe a Florian Lebigra, maybe a Gustavo Ariel on the alternate tires into that pack and maybe frustrate them slightly? Do they leave McEwen, Pinto, who is not out of the points contention yet if McEwen has some struggles in the latter half of this race or in the final round of the championship? Do they ensure they have got track position heading into the closing stages of this race? The answer is, well, all of them will stay out on track as Redline extend the tires.
I just don't think, Arjuna, that Redline's going to think about splitting it up, at least in a large sense. And if they do, it's going to be maybe a one-lap difference. It isn't going to be that disastrous or that big of a semblance. And for Eduardo Leo, you know, he's at the back of the field. So that's the real call for him and part of Team Redline. He qualified deeper in the field, and he just overshot his pit box, so he's going to lose a bit more time. But yeah, he's going to come down. I just don't think anyone from up front in this main Redline group is going to come down separately, because they've already built up such a large gap in front of the rest of the field. I think they can trust each other that if they do come down pit road, at least within a lap or two of each other, and come mostly together, they will cycle out nicely, and whatever opposing forces will be around them, I think they can overwhelm the opposition with just the sheer numbers they have up at the front.
And what a lineup it is for Redline, right? You look at the 5 still out there at the 6, including Josh Thompson now, still out there at the front of the field. They just competed in VCO Infinity, 24 races in 24 hours. Gustavo Ariel, part of the team, with Diogo Pinto, Enzo Benito, Sebastian Jode, Cooper Webster. When between a 5-driver lineup, you've got 3 Porsche Esports Super Cup champions in that lineup. There's a reason why Redline have continued to stake their claim as the best team in the world of sim racing, showing us why they can adapt to these IndyCar machines as well. So Muto, next down pit lane. Remember, Dan Amor came in at the end of lap 15, so theoretically, KB, we could see Redline go another 3 laps or so and then decide to throw the alternates on. Their lap times are pretty good. McEwen just put in his fastest lap of the race last time at the line.
Yeah, that's because they've been up saving the whole time, and because they haven't had to use push to pass all that much over the course of this race, and because they haven't found any other drivers other than their own teammates. It's given more comfort overall, and they put themselves in a little bit of a bubble, apart from maybe Cooper Webster, who's been more in the trenches and doing the dirty jobs. But for everyone else, I mean, they've had to relax. They've had their chance to get into a muscle memory, get into their rhythm, and that has allowed them to just spread apart and just be so quick at the front of the field. And again, just that comfort in staying out, whatever they can do. But back to your point about just Redline's contingent and how fantastic they've been. You know, I saw a quote from Max Verstappen not that long ago about why he built a team like Redline and why he supports this group. And it's for a lot of these drivers that, you know, maybe financially won't have the chance to run in real life, given their upbringing or anything. And then you see this, you know, the way they're able to use sim racing and use these series as a chance to platform themselves and be extremely skilled in what they do, because they are, and maybe get a chance to run in real life as well. Do you watch the battle for third?
Well, remember that Chris Lullen, part of the Redline crew, not only won the Spa 24 in the real world last year, the GT World Challenge Europe Championship in class as well. He's just won the Asian Le Mans Championship. Kwame Scott, by the way, KB, this was something I had noted. He is, well, smiling, I'm sure, from cheek to cheek, but part of the reason why he's having so much fun as the fastest lap gets punched in from Eduardo Leo is he has burned through 147 seconds of his push to pass so far in this race. He's got 53 left for the 17 laps we've still got left to go.
Yeah, I was counting on my fingers. I'm like, 17 laps? He still has a long time to go around Mid-Ohio with 53 seconds to play with. I think it's just because he started so back in the field. I think he's just looking to find any place to put in a push to pass, gain horsepower, and then have the edge over the competition through this strategy. But I mean, it's going to come back to him to bite at some point. Everyone else is going to have more than him, and even in the small portions where drivers have been able to use their push to pass, they're going to jump on him very quickly, ate up through all of it. And now here comes Alessandro Bico, who should be cycling back into the top 10 around the inside in turn 1. I don't know if I've ever seen the push to pass get eaten up like that so much a little bit after halfway, but I mean, leave it to Kwame Scott to put it all out there and try that strategy.
Hey, he was about as hungry as I was for push to pass, as I was for dinner after getting off an 8-hour flight, so I don't blame him. For more information on this series, log on to iRacing.com/IndyCar-esports. One more round to go. Maybe go look at that rulebook and figure out how these drivers qualified into this series. Might see you in 2027 as well. Yeah, Kwame Scott, that is the Arjuna style of push-to-pass approach, that is for sure. What is rationing? Not so sure about that. He's fighting with Jacob Oster, who's just dived down to pit lane, and so I think we are in this one-lap window now. On to the 25th lap of this stint on primary tires for Redline. A bit of traffic at the front, but it's not much. The fact that McEwen is starting to use the push-to-pass with a bit more freedom indicates to me that they're in hammer mode right now, or Supermax mode is maybe more appropriate. And down to pit lane, 15 laps on the alternate is what they're looking to do.
And we're looking at 10 cars that have still yet to come down pit road. Vico's that first one that's trying to cycle. He got past Dan Amor, drivers like Ferryman, Munoz, Sormanidis, a lot of the folk that came down pit road. That's where Vico's looking to attempt to attack and make that. But with all that push to pass that they're using right now, again, it goes back to using the gap to your advantage and just doing what you can whenever you have to come down pit road. I think Arjuna, they're looking for the edge of that window on the alternate tires. If they can make it with 11 laps to go and then pit on the alternates, they can save as much as possible and just be good to the end.
Well, I think that what we're seeing is the primary tires aren't losing speed. McEwen was a 10th off last time by, but we are at that fuel window, I think, where you cannot extend any further. Those that weren't saving, Webster, Thompson, Costantini, diving down towards pit lane, and I think McEwen, Ariel, Pinto, Labigro will be one lap offset and dive in on the next lap. This is important, KB, because it means at the end of the race, when the likes of Bico are going to have primary tires that we know are quick, the alternate tires won't be as worn for McEwen, who's got to win this race to maximize his championship hopes.
That's exactly what I think Redline's doing, and they're putting it to perfection. If they can try and test trial those two drivers at the back end of this main group, come in at the perfect sweet spot window for those alternate tires, I mean, they'll probably save a little bit at the beginning of the run on cold tires. They'll nurse it for maybe a few laps, but by the end of that, they can push, they can run it to the end. And by that point, the distance has been so large over the course of the night, they probably won't have to deal with Alessandro Bico's any say at what could be a change in position through this top 10. But I will tell you that at this point, and this is where they're going to do it, with 14 laps to go, just 3 laps after that crossover point for the alternate tires. And what's really going to be curious is where this entire thing cycles out, because Cooper Webster had already come in. How far does he cycle through if he has a chance? And here come some others.
Cooper Webster ended up in front, though, of Alessandro Bico and Dan Amor. So, KB, it's go back to lap 5 in this race when Bico and Amor were trying to put the pressure on with their alternate tires. But now it's roles reversed. Webster will have the better grip in the early stage as they rejoin the racing surface. And there's a big gap that's starting to build as it chops and changes up towards the keyhole. Pinto in front of Ariel, Labigra directly behind them, different wheels to make it easy to identify them all. But look at the gap that Webster's already got to Bico, KB. It's over 1.6 seconds out of drafting range as Labigra slips past Gustavo.
That's the strategy. I mean, that was pretty much textbook. To go in the lap early, put yourself right in front. They've had Webster be the defender all night long. And if he has fresher tires, a better car right now, you've got 13 laps to go. If he can hold on for the next few laps while Bico continues to press on the attack and maybe force him to use a lot more of his Firestones, and then he would like it right now in this race. And then it's just ball game. Redline can just play with the distance they have, and then at some point, like we're seeing right now, jostle for position between themselves. I mean, this is a team effort, but they're all on their own goals, looking for either a championship or some more points down the line. So you're going to see a lot more switching for position, at least in just a more respectful way between them, because they're not being so aggressive. They understand they don't want to take any teammates out. But, I mean, that was the strategy to put on. And with Webster doing what he did right there, that was more than enough. And you think about where Josh Thompson is, also with fresh tires compared to Dan Amor, so he can start to put more of a buffer and slow these two down as well.
And look at him work the exit of the keyhole, swing out wide, cut back down the power slightly early. He's got fresh alternate tires as well here, so this is a benefit. Amor 12 laps on the run already. Very defensive into China Beach. It's slightly off camber on the outside, and Thompson all 4 wheels into the grass. And now onto the kiddie litter on the right side of the track. Well, race control's got something to look at the end of this race.
And that's such a narrow point of the circuit. I mean, we saw with Belletsiotis, he attempted to dive on the inside, but it's such an awkward apex. It doesn't widen out. It just kind of shortens up a little bit, so you have less of that asphalt to work with. And if you have one car that slightly misses the corner, like you saw Amor do, split up wide and force pushes Thompson in the grass, and then, you're switching back. There's more grass on the other side, and a tire barrier much closer to the racing surface. That is such a heartbreaker for John Thompson, and I think Redline's going to have it right on the Christmas card list for his hard work tonight, but it won't be rewarded with a good finish, it looks like.
Fastest lap for Luke McEwen is almost 2 seconds quicker than what we're seeing from most of the primary tire runners right now. A 107.177 versus right around a 109 for most of the field. Let's take a look at some of the action on the bottom, and I think this will be a great look at, well, Josh Thompson trying to make this move. He's going to be pushed out wide. Amor definitely does not leave him any room, and then it's reminiscent of one of the IndyCar starts about 3 or 4 years ago when Santino Ferrucci almost drove into half of the field. Josh Thompson did a good job to minimize the damage. Would have been very simple for him to run into Amor as he rejoined the track.
You and I, our minds just went 2 different places, because what I thought was kind of the equivalent of Team Canada in curling, just using their finger to nudge the stone. That kind of almost looked like what Dan Amor had done. I mean, he did miss the corner entry because he's on the inside and he has to narrow up and shallow up his entry, but he just slowly slipped up, kind of nudged Thompson a little bit outside, and that's where the grass comes up. It's such a difficult point to make a pass. You have to be well in front of the car, either the inside or the outside, to properly get around the car and clear yourself through China Beach, because that's been the talking point all race long. You really don't want to be making passes or side-by-side right here, and this gives you a proper look. That's that shallow entry in turn 4. You go through 5 on the inside. You go down the hill through 6, 7, 8, and then you go to Thunder Valley at the exit of turn 9. Look how narrow that is. Look how fast this corner is going up the crest of the hill with rear tire spin. Last thing you want to do is be side-by-side, and reminds me back to the Portland days. In turn 10, you don't want to be side-by-side there at the speeds you're going at and at the angle you attack the corner.
Hey, you do have some heavy braking zones here, but you are right. A lot of these corners are medium to higher speed corners. That last sequence relatively slow, but by no means is it slow enough for big sends necessarily in these Dallara IR18s. One of our Drago Racing white and red entries. Nicholas Matteo drops behind Jacob Oster. Remember, Oster and Kwame Scott were fighting just before they came down pit lane. It's allowed an undercut for Oster. Put a car between him as well, between Matteo and Scott. 10 laps left to go, though. We are in the final stages of this race.
And there's Matteo as he weaves his way through turn 1, and that's 18th place he runs, and that's Jacob Oster there, who captured his best finish of the season, by the way, last week in Nashville on top 10s on all occasions. He's part of that Team I5G camp, or at least he was last season in 2024. But he's good friends with Brendan Lichtenberg, former member of this series back a couple years back in 2024, and I think our producer and director Cisco Scaramuza had told me before there was a sim racing injury where, Lichtenberg was kind of set up in his car. He looked down at his wheel in an attempt to kind of just take the gloves off and, reset. And all of a sudden someone just hits him from the back and the wheel just jerks it right into the chin of Lichtenberg. I don't think I've ever seen an injury quite bizarre like that. I think Oster probably sending him the well wishes, and as he runs 17th right now. I wanted to bring up that story, and I think Cisco nudged me to do it as well. So a shout out Brendan Lichtenberg right there. Hope he's doing all right.
Brendan is doing okay, I can confirm. He said that fortunately his force feedback is turned down quite a lot when I was chatting with him about that. So top tip, firstly, don't crash into anybody on purpose, even after a race. It is against the iRacing Sporting Code, as much as you might laugh at that. It is a silly thing to do. 2, keep your force feedback low, because if it was Sebastian Job that had happened to, boy, I don't want to think about what would have been going on there. Change made as Sota Muto swaps places with Tamas Shimon, who moves up into 13th spot. Remember, Muto was one of those drivers that started on the alternate tire. It's been out there on track now for 10 laps on these primaries.
And also, just a final point on that, if you have a direct drive wheel, always be aware of the dangers of it at any given point, because you have a car hits you, something else happens, that wheel could very well break your wrist. I'm scared of direct drive wheels. I'm going to be real with you. I'm just not skilled enough to handle that yet. But, yeah, of course, for Lichtenberg there, hope he's doing all right. And probably, of course, in his streaming world, is here all the red line cars. You watch Pinto and Gustavo Ariel as they all push through. And this is the final edge of that push to pass with 8 laps to go. All for crucial points, of course. Pinto winning last week at Nashville and just trying to get any edge he can in these final few.
You can see currently on screen those push-to-pass numbers as we continue to dwindle down in this race. Rationing them out, as we mentioned on numerous occasions, is always a difficult balance to strike. When we used to have lots of regular Monday night, just regular iRacing official races, coverage of that on RaceSpot TV, we used to call the go out there and burn your push-to-pass approach the Yao Baz strategy, because he used it to great effect. And then on the other side of that, you would have Adam Blocker, who would save all the push-to-pass to the end of the race, and sometimes not even use it all up. Live points, KB, still so close.
It's so close, but you think of what Luke McEwen's doing right now, and you have to feel a little powerless, because it's still 10 points, even with all the laps he's led, even with the win he could capture here in the next 6.5 laps or so. Michele Costantini is just performing well enough, and that is such a great position to be in, because you put a little less pressure on yourself, and you can trust your car, you trust your instincts, and knowing Costantini's skill alone, he did all the hard work and really powered through all those ovals where plenty of other teams have struggled, and a lot of their sore points came at that area of the schedule. Costantini rose up to the challenge, wanted Indianapolis, and the last 2 weeks handled his business. That's what we call standing on business, really, for the Italian here. And 7th place, and as long as he can keep it clean, that's really where you want to be, where an average position is just good enough for a title.
It's been an interesting couple of years for Michele. I distinctly remember the 2022 iRacing Indy 500. It was the first iRacing Indy 500 that I was commentating as the play-by-play, but I was also producing, KB. And when we had the race to the end, Brandon Trainor versus Costantini, as Costantini continues to pick up the pace. But I remember seeing the look of disappointment, the look of heartbreak on Michele's face when he crossed the line to finish second. He is a driver who has put so much passion into this IndyCar over the years, and while yes, he's raced with the likes of Coanda Esports, the likes of the Apex Racing team, and most recently Scuderia Ferrari HP Esports team, this is what he loves. And that win that he got at Indy, I cannot tell you how much it meant to him. It probably meant even more than winning the championship would at the end of the year, because that's how special a place Indianapolis is.
And his face showed it all on that final lap and the drag race to the line. And you always think with the way these Indy cars handle on iRacing, you can never quite predict what it's going to go like, what that sequence is going to be like. To have your nose ahead first at the line, to see his, bit of a mix of relief that he got there first, but also the excitement, the elation, and how he's enjoyed this season. The hard work that he's put in to master the oval side of things, the hard work he's put in to be balanced on both sides, and has always been a threat on both ends, but he's refined both on the skill level, and it's really rewarded him with a fantastic season, especially after the first two didn't go his way in Portland and Long Beach. How Costantini has turned things around, I mean, it's remarkable. And again, still another race to do, still 5 laps to put in here before he can really solidify a championship. But that's a fantastic story, especially after the struggles and the bad luck of last season that peaked its way at a big win at Milwaukee.
Sometimes consistency, the luck, it finds you. There's that famous quote in golf, you make your own luck. The implication is the more you practice, the more that you'll get better. And maybe that's true on iRacing as well. This is the driver's eye view in the Dallara IR18. The more you practice in sim racing, the better you get, the luckier you get. Never been a better time to jump behind the wheel. Start your iRacing career today by logging on to iRacing.com, where new memberships are 40% off. And boy, do I have to say, this is one of my favorite views in all of iRacing. There are some replica steering wheels coming out that will put that wheel in front of you, in your hands, in your sim ring at home. Feel the true connection of sim racing and the IndyCar. And why is that so important, KB? As much as we're here talking about serious sim racing, something else coming out this year. The NTT IndyCar Series game in partnership with iRacing Studios. Very excited to hear more about that.
That's going to be super cool. And with the way that iRacing has collaborated with the NTT IndyCar Series on refining the details of this IR18 And over the last few updates, you know, I've seen the reception from the drivers on the sim base, and they love it. They love the way this car drives. They love the challenge that it brings. They love that refinement that really makes the IndyCar series so great in the real world, is how those drivers can wrestle these cars and how unique they are in their setups, how unique they are in the way they drive and downforce, and how they're able to do both street, road, and oval courses as well. And it's so cool to see that happen, and to have iRacing and IndyCar collaborate on a video game, you know, sort of like they did with another primary racing series in NASCAR not that long ago. I think IndyCar is going to get its great treatment, and the fans of IndyCar who have been waiting for a console game for so many years, they're going to be so happy.
You can see Luke McEwen's recent run. The oval's definitely not his bread and butter, although compared to the rest of the Redline team, he's probably got a bit more experience after the years he spent with the Apex Racing team, paired up with Brandon Traino, the only back-to-back winner of the iRacing Indy 500. And of course as well, but with Peter Berryman, another staple and fixture of those iRacing Indy 500s. Another game coming out, by the way, that KB and myself are very excited about. Release date officially confirmed for iRacing Arcade, releasing 3rd of March on Steam, coming to consoles later this year. I can tell you what, the 8-hour flight I've got back from Germany to the US this weekend, iRacing Arcade would have been just about perfect for that. 2 laps left to go though. Luke McEwen in control as he carves up to some traffic. 2.8 seconds, the gap back to Diogo Pinto. Costantini's hit a bit of stall now behind Biko. Looks like 7th might be the best that he will get. So let's check in with a fight between Jacob Oster and Kwame Scott. 17th and 18th positions respectively, KB. Remember, Kwame burned so much of his push to pass in the early stages of the race.
But the difference between these two isn't that large. It's only 7 seconds to the advantage of Jacob Oster. So if Kwame Scott can hold on just for a little longer, and if he's naturally faster on the racetrack, this is a closer battle than you may think if you just look at push-to-pass numbers. And Scott has been hounding on Oster's rear wing for a little while now. Only takes 1 bobble, especially in that second sector off of turn 4, where a slide, you know, a missed apex could make that difference. And with all those corners so closely congested to each other, you miss one, you're going to miss half of them. And that's going to really hurt your lap. So Kwame Scott, I mean, he's laser focused. He was smiling earlier on tonight. I think he's fully locked in at this point to get 17th.
Smile after the checkered flag, potentially, depending on the results, as Luke McEwen starts the final just under 2-mile trip around this Mid-Ohio sports car course. And Michele Costantini was the first driver to get 2 pole positions this year, and it set him up to grab the championship lead. Luke McEwen looks set to grab 2 wins this year, the first driver to do so, KB, and it will set him up as our one of our championship contenders in a week's time.
And just a great drive. Again, this is what you have to do. And when your back's against the wall, you got to rise up to the challenge. And McEwen did that. It was a fantastic pass on Pinto. And now just a few more corners for McEwen to wrap up his 2nd win of the season.
The effort in qualifying told the story that Redline knew that this race would set out their stall in a week's time at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. They locked out the front 7 in qualifying, but only 1 driver was really expected to rise to the front as Redline managed the situation. 2 wins in 2026 for Luke McEwen as this IndyCar Thrustmaster iRacing Pro Series heads to its season finale, and with maybe 3 as our favorites. Here comes Costantini, the points leader, who does a good job of climbing from 10th to 7th at the time with a checkered flag.
That's all you got to do. A great finish given the circumstances. Tomas Simon, Esteban Rodriguez, 12th and 13th. We'll come back to this battle between Oster and Kwame Scott. Still close in these final few corners. 12 and 13 coming up. Could be a dive here from Scott, but it will not be enough. Jacob Oster holds on to 17th, and a great fight between those two, back and forth mentally. But back to that point for Michele Costantini and Luke McEwen. It's going to be fun at Laguna Seca. That is the real test. I mean, you told this track was very tough. Laguna Seca may just be even tougher, and a perfect place for a finale between 2 of the titans in our series this year.
One of my favorites, my former home track, the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. It's one in the iRacing IndyCar series that often comes down to fuel saving. Next week's race, not expecting that to be the case. I think a sprint to the end between maybe Michael Romanidis, but definitely Costantini And this week's winner, the first to return to victory lane after winning on the streets of Long Beach, Luke McEwen does it again at Mid-Ohio. He leads Redline to the line. Pinto, Labigra, Ariel and Webbs to the top 5 with Alessandro Bico breaking up the monotony. Michele Costantini does what he needs to in the championship fight in front of the likes of Dan Amor, Peter Berryman, a couple of the drivers starting on the alternate compound of tire, and then down in 10th place, Jaden Munoz. Marco Romanidis, not the easiest of days for him in 11th. Esteban Rodriguez climbs up 9 positions, as does Tamas Simone, to 12th and 13th respectively, while for Eduardo Leo, no luck on the day. Behind him, Matteo Kenzer, 16 positions to the good, in front of Jacob Oster, Kwame Scott, Nicholas Mateo, who drops down to 19th, and Alex van der Sant, who rounds out your top 20. Alex Russell, still hoping that maybe a top 7 on the championship points is on the cards for him, finishes in front of the pair of Sheza Esports machines. Balint Pala split from David Toth by 1 lap. Rob Malechka also 1 lap down. Before you get into the DNFs, the likes of Phil Kraus, Josh Thompson, Ricardo Rico, Alexander Spetz, Adam Blocker, Sam Coiter, as well as Vasilius Belitsiotis, Pablo Espez, and Elliot Veyron. As ever, we will enjoy a good chat with our race winner and see what his mindset is like with just 1 race left to go and potentially the championship up for grabs. WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, we know how much people will talk about the corkscrew. However, you ask me, it's the corner before that, the one that leads you up into the corkscrew that's more scary. We'll find out what it's got in store for us in a week's time. For now, KB's down in victory lane.
Joined by a winner tonight, Luke McEwen, 2nd victory of the season. You're the only 2-time winner in 2026. You break up a different streak of winners. Luke, we saw that breath of exhale at the end when you crossed the line. How impactful was a win like this given your point situation entering the race? Luke, you got a copy with us? I'm hoping Luke is potentially muted here. Luke, you got a copy with us? All right, well, looks like we don't have Luke right now, but he's celebrating and just debriefing his moments right now in victory lane. But I think just taking it all in, Arjuna, on a very special win, 2nd of the season, but look how close that gets him to Michele Costantini. It's still double digits from coming into this race versus getting out of it, entering Laguna Seca, but for McEwen and his road course prowess, there is still very much a chance intact.
Eduardo Leo is the first driver outside the bubble. Yes, with penalty points from race control still yet to be determined from this penultimate round of the championship, but you needed to be within 50 points or so, being realistic. Even 33 for Michael Romanidis is probably a bit too far away, if you ask me. Santini, another good top 10 in the road course section of things, will probably get him that 1 step closer. Let's see if we can chat to his main rival, though. Luke McEwen, now with KB.
All right, 2nd time's the charm, joined by winner Luke McEwen tonight. Luke, we saw that breath of relief as you crossed
quite far behind, but yeah, I think it was a must-win, and what a great job the team did. Honestly, it was unbelievable. After quali, when we locked out the top 7 places, yeah, amazing feeling, amazing job from everyone.
You and your teammates sailed off in the front, and that was definitely no question, but the battle for the win was still very much there. Past halfway, you pass your teammate to get to the front, Gustavo Ariel, and you just leave him in the dust. You go for the win. What was that moment like when you made that pass off of turn 2 and just establishing your force at the front to hold on to the win?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to get into the lead. You get fresh air. You've got nothing in front of you. You can just really focus on your own race. Luckily, I managed the tires quite well in the first half of the stint, so I pulled a bit of a gap. But like everyone was so fast, I had to really be on my A game for that race. And good pit stop, I managed to pull a bit of a bigger gap, and then it was just really keeping the tires alive because it was so hot, the track. It was, yeah, really tough.
Last time we were at Laguna Seca, you finished inside the top 10 with a 7th place effort, and of course 10 points behind Costantini going into the finale next week. What do you need to execute in order to be that champion at the very end and take it away from Costantini at the line?
Yeah, I just need to do the best job possible, kind of like what we did here. Just give it my all, and I can't control what he does, so I just need to give it my all, really.
Well, you gave it your all tonight, and it's a race victory, 2nd of the season, with 1 race to go to decide a champion. Luke, congratulations on the win tonight from Mid-Ohio, and best of luck in the finale next week at Laguna Seca. Should be fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
Luke McEwen in his number 96 gets the victory, 2nd of the year, and he's 10 points behind the man we're talking to right now, Michele Costantini, on a 7th place run. But Michele, given your performance on the ovals this season, the buffer was definitely there, and the finishes have definitely continued to show for another top 10 tonight. What did that feel like behind the wheel here at Mid-Ohio?
Yeah, hello everyone. It was a pretty solid race. I think I made the right strategy call, considering where I started. Biko and Vasilios in front of me started on alternates, and Biko finished right ahead of me. But I was happy with taking the less risky strategy. You know, it's much less risky to start with a slower tire and let people by at the start and then catch them back at the end, rather than, you know, fighting people in front. And, you know, obviously I had to pass a lot of red lane cars as well, which would not have made it easy for me. So I just made the call to start on the primes, and turned out to be the right call for where I started. So yeah, as a result, it's pretty good, but we'll have to do better at Laguna to, you know, to end at the top of the standings.
Well, that's where I wanted to turn my attention to. Laguna Seca, final race of the season. Obviously a very difficult track, and one that Redline won last season. So what can you do mentally and obviously on the racetrack to be able to solidify the championship at the end?
Just gonna perform, really. I mean, Luke is super fast, so just gonna try and give it everything this week in training and practicing to be as fast as possible. Gonna try to be up there, because, I mean, I'm giving it for certain that he's gonna win next week, because, as you said, it's quite a good track for Redline, as it showed in the past. So yeah, it's just gonna be about performing, being up there, doing the best as I can, and, you know, try to get as close to him as possible. And, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, even with a P2, it's very close at the end. It goes down to the bonus points, I think, if I finish P2 and he finishes P1. So just gonna perform, give it the best that I have for Laguna, and try to get the win.
Well, it's going to be a scintillating championship fight. I'd say that for the least. Michele, congratulations on the top 10 finish tonight from Mid-Ohio, and looking forward to see you in the field in the finale next week.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Michele Costantini, top 10 finish, 7th on the racetrack. We're joined now by the Drago racing car of Michael Romanidis. And Michael, a top 11 finish here from Mid-Ohio, had to work through a lot of that strategy, and you came down pit road a little bit after being passed by Costantini. What was the big challenge there in that strategy with the primaries on the alternates, given the time difference?
Yeah, I think both strategies were pretty tight. I think it came down to, well, it usually comes down to just how the start kind of goes, especially in the midfield. But we tried to go with a soft, just to do something a little bit different to Redline, as I don't think we had the pace at all in the race or in quality to challenge them, so we just had to try and do something different. And also Michele was starting on the hards, and we just wanted to be a bit more comfortable for the start, to have a bit more grip. But I think in the end it didn't really change the result too much. I personally made a little bit of a mistake. I could have finished 9th at most, which is where Peter finished, which I think is more or less, to be honest, the maximum that our car could do. Especially after quali, we were just lacking so much. So yeah, to be honest, a pretty decent performance. But relative to the other races, just the result is absolutely nowhere. So a little bit disappointing, just seeing where we were coming into this race, and maybe, yeah, expectations were a bit too high. But we'll still keep fighting. We have one more race to go, and hopefully we can keep everyone who is behind still behind us, the Laguna.
That's right. One more chance, still one more race to solidify a good finish at the end. What's that mindset now after Mid-Ohio? Is it be super aggressive? Does the mindset change and strategy change at all entering the final race?
I don't know. I think now with one race to go, it's kind of, mathematical. Every point kind of matters, and just trying to keep the best position possible in the standings. I think more or less the mindset is going to be the same. We'll try and push in the week leading up to the race to try and find the best car possible, because clearly we still have a lot of work to do on these last two races. So yeah, we'll try and build a good car, come back a little bit faster, and try and win the race. That's always the goal. But pretty tough blow today.
Should be fun, though, at Laguna Seca 1 week from tonight to close out the season. Michael, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck at Laguna Seca next Thursday.
Thank you very much.
Well, what an interesting penultimate round of this championship, KB, and I really do agree with what Michele just said, which is that if Luke wins the next race, it is going to come down to bonus points. Difference between first and second in this championship at the end of a race is 10 points. What was our gap at the end of the championship standings when we last looked at them?
10 points. Exactly 10 points. That's such fine margins. And like last season, it's going to come down to one race and executing a very difficult Laguna Seca track. And like Michele said also in his interview, Redline has a history of being very good there. Tonight was a demonstration of their prowess when they can get themselves together, qualify well, number one, and then just strategize themselves to block off any opposition and give themselves a higher chance of success. If they can pull that off at Laguna Seca, there is opportunities that are endless for Luke McEwen to step away with a walk-off championship finale, but Michele Costantini has been always so there. He's been so good over the last few races. He's come hot at the right time. So it is going to come down to another classic, Arjuna. This IndyCar series is only, 2 seasons old, and we've had 2 fantastic championship fights in all of them. Couldn't have asked for a better one.
And so you have the former FIA Formula 4 Esports Global Champion going up against Michele Costantini at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Head back to the Golden Coast and bathe our drivers in some, hopefully, glorious sunshine as we make our way to a historic track, an old school track, and one where mistakes will be punished. Same time, same place, iRacing Esports Network, IndyCar's social channels. Join us next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern for our title showdown. But that's going to close it out from here, the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And thank you to you, our fans, for helping us pick between the Barber Motorsports Park and the wonderful Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Redline rampant in qualifying, but Costantini does what he needs to. 2 very much fighting for the championship, heading out to next week's title showdown for our team at iRacing. Kenneth Bueno alongside myself, Arjuna Kanki-Party. Can't wait to see you there, where we'll crown our second IndyCar Thrustmaster iRacing Pro Series champion.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another dose of Thursday Night Thrills, courtesy, of course, of the iRacing Creator Series. And for the first time this season, well, we're venturing beyond the United States, from the blistering Brickyard to the foothills of Mount Fuji. We're blasting across the globe and touching down at the iconic, I think I'm right in saying, no discrepancies there, Fuji Speedway for the fourth chapter of the Creator Series, Multi-Class Mayhem. Very, very exciting. Certainly looking forward to this one. And once again, commandeering commentary corner for tonight's action. Myself, Tom Wilkinson, alongside me, John Harris, also known as Eyes Amusing. And John, well, we've had 3 utterly enthralling rounds to kickstart the season. I think I'm right in saying, feels like the bar just keeps getting raised higher and higher and higher. Armand Duplantis style, if you will. Can we expect more of the same tonight?
I think so. Honestly, everybody's getting into the championship, so they're pushing harder and harder. We saw that last time out at Indianapolis. And I think, honestly, this course is very tricky. It's iconic, as you said, and it's that for a reason. You've got a really ultra-long straight with a heavy braking zone into turn 1 hairpin. But after that, if you haven't cooked the tyres in that turn 1, it's very fast-flowing corners apart from that tricky chicane in Sector 2. So it's one of those tracks I think everybody loves racing at, and for some reason not many series go there anymore, and so it's one of the tracks that I haven't driven actually. So there you go. It'll be a new experience for a lot of the drivers in here, I'm sure, but I'm sure it's one they are reveling to win at least, and it's getting close in the points as well, so they need to do that.
It is 100%. Like you said, I think that second half of the lap, the really technical, twisty section, that could be a recipe for disaster with some of the multi-class racing that we've seen. Definitely hoping for some more entertainment tonight. But first and foremost, let's take a look at what's on the menu for the remainder of this season, but also what's already been consumed in Season 3. Our opening American triple header already in the rearview mirror. Road America, Laguna Seca, Indy Road Course, all delivered action and intrigue. I'm sure you'll agree. Fuji playing host tonight. And then the second half of our Japanese doubleheader is split by the first special event of the season, the Cross Kart Carnage. Make sure you're tuned in for that one in 7 days' time. Then the technical challenge of Okayama follows before we return stateside for an American swing featuring Daytona Road, Sebring, Talladega, and Miami. Long Beach hosting the second and final special event, a super special event you can see there. Before we finish where we started in the Creator Series on the iRacing side, Monza Historic, although this time with the chicanes. And John, like we said a couple of times, you have certainly got some fond memories of that venue.
No commentary moments have happened during Creator Series on that one. I just remember space programs of various different brands going off at the second banked corner of Monza. So yeah, fun times. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. There's no chicane in the banking corner, so it might happen again. But if you look at the calendar, one thing that I've noticed as well is that as people get more confident, we sort of crank up the level of circuits, as in they get quicker and quicker. You know, we were at Indianapolis last round. Now Fuji, a little bit of a slowdown, but as you ramp it up, you've got Daytona, you've got Talladega, you've got loads of tracks where you have to be at the utmost confidence with the car, and indeed in terms of racing the drivers around you. So I like that kind of notion of, as the drivers crank up the level, we also crank up the difficulty in terms of speed.
100%. Going to be fascinating to see how things develop as we go through the campaign. But before we get into tonight's action, I think we should have a little bit of a chin wag with some of the competitors. And first of all, waiting in the interview waiting room, it's Des TV. And we're going to drag Des in. Hello, my friend. Hopefully you are doing well this evening. We head to Fuji tonight, of course. What are you expecting first and foremost from this track? Jumping back into the series, you've had a little bit of time to acclimatise to the Creator Series chaos.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. It's like, I actually initially messaged Punju I think earlier in the week, and I was like, hey, like this is gonna be crazy. And then like throughout like trying out the track, because every single track that we race on is like my first time ever racing on it. So I tried it out like it was yesterday, and then I literally messaged him and I was like, this is like the most flowy, like nice track ever. But the only unfortunate thing for me is like I'm in the Lambo, and for some reason there's a giant screen for the rear view mirror, and so the last turn is like it's already kind of blind, but like it's completely blind for me. So I just kind of have to like assume where I'm at, because I literally can't see anything out of my windshield in my car. So but I'm excited. I really like how it, like I said, it's flowy and it feels good. Like I'm gonna enjoy it.
Have you tried drifting through the last turn to get rid of the screen problem? That's something that I try. I'm not sure if it would work out, but how has the balance of the car been, other than visibility problems? Is it quite difficult to drive and get that balance between the sort of low-speed hairpins and the very fast corners like 100R?
No, once I'm driving the Lambo, and like consistently for like a little bit, it's pretty nice. But the thing is since I just started with iRacing, like whenever it was like a week or two prior to the first race, I've obviously been ranking up like throughout the levels, and so I'm still in C. I'm almost a B right now, and so I'm like driving like the lower level cars and like basically the whole week, and then I go to here and now I'm driving a GT3, and so that's like the acclimation point from going from like the Toyota GR or like the 86 and to this is completely different. So like that's where I'm at. But like once I'm in it, and like I love the Lambo. It feels great to me compared to like I've tried some other GT3s, but I like the Lambo. I love it.
What would you say is the biggest thing that you have had to learn, whether it's the car itself or the style of racing, especially in the Creator Series, where there is a lot of chaos? We have the unsafety cars, we have the multi-class mayhem going on. From that kind of view, what would you say is the biggest takeaway from your first few appearances?
So my main thing that I'm going to try in this race is not die lap 1. Every single race so far, I've died lap 1, basically, or on the first lap. And so if I can get through lap 1, then I feel like I have a good chance to stay near the front. But that's like where I'm like, okay, I am not used to, I think, the whole like 3 different series racing, and so you have like obviously the Indies going, and then I'm trying to figure out when we're going, and so I think all of it is just kind of like weird. I guess it's not like a normal race like you would have. Obviously this is not a normal race, but yeah, that's the main thing I think I need to get used to, is just not dying on lap 1, and that is my goal, and if that happens, I'll be happy.
Following on from that question, if indeed lap 1 goes okay, where do you think you'll be around in terms of pace? Is there a driver maybe in the past couple of races that you've noticed you're around their pace and that you might be fighting with?
I think, well, obviously Almeida and Paul are kind of like, I feel like they're in a league of their own, and so nowhere near them. And because as of right now, like Sparks, I think Grand Pooh Bear has some pretty good pace. Both of them I feel like are pretty much in where I could be at with them, is if we're all on the same track or on the track together and no one's crashing, which is kind of hard to say. But yeah, I think one of them I'm probably around. I feel like I have pretty good pace. Like I feel like out of all the tracks that we've raced so far, my pace is probably the best on this track so far. So also I changed my whole setup, everything like that. I guess you could go back to your other question. I realized that like my seat was like angled weird. My throttle was in a different thread, so it was like also angled weird. I like redid like my my seating position as well too, to make it more ergonomic, I guess you could say. And like, so now I no longer have back pain. My shoulders aren't hurting. Like everything is like, I feel like hopefully the comfortability is able to show as well in the pace. So that's what basically what I'm hoping for.
Amazing. Well, with fingers crossed that you can get through lap 1 unskirmished, and then you can head off and have some great duels, and hopefully this will be a very decent one for yourself. Thank you for jumping in, Des, and best of luck for this evening's action.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
And you too. So, from someone who's been talking about how experience needs to try and build up that experience, we're going to go to one of the most experienced in the business now. Jumping back in after a little bit of time out, Hayden Gullis has joined us in the commentary booth. Hayden, welcome in. After a little bit of time out, not racing last time, have you prepared yourself for jumping straight back into the deep end?
I did actually do some laps last night because I've never driven Fuji before, and that's something I never do for Creator Series. So I thought I'll get my eye in a little bit, but then yeah, we jumped in a little bit late and I've murdered some cars. So I think that's the best part of the practice for me, is I now know many different ways to murder different classes in this.
So just for note, we are on board with you right now, so no funny business into turn 1. It's not Sand of Oak, so no heroics. What's the main difficulties with this track then, would you say, compared to other tracks?
Can I say everywhere? Whoever designed this circuit All right. I don't know. I think their job is on the chops. Because Sector 3, especially, I don't know if it's just an IndyCar thing. I've not driven it here in any other car, but there is no grip. The rear end wants to step out on you the whole time. I don't know if it's because these cars don't have a lot of downforce, but Sector 3 is just painful, which I hopefully for you lot will make for some very interesting racing.
I think we're all embedded in a little bit of chaos, and that's what we like to see. Just tagging onto the back of that, where on the circuit in particular do you think we're going to see the most carnage from an overtaking perspective? When we've got the different car classes coming through, you're going to be catching the GR86s at quite a rate of knots. Is there anywhere in particular that you're thinking, oh, we might need to be a little bit brave here?
I think turn 4? It's a very long right-hander. I mean, the whole of Sector 3 is going to be chaos because I don't think we're that much faster than the GT3, so we do have to be careful. I think we can send it up the inside, but our acceleration will not be as good. But yeah, I think that turn 4 is going to be maybe the sketchiest because I feel like we're going to be really fast, flying up to the back of those cars, and then, yeah, could get caught out.
We've got a very long pit lane today, and I'm not referencing any other races that may or may not have happened in the past, but seeing as you won't have the opportunity to perhaps do some overtakes in an uncanny manner, is there any other way that you see that you could make up positions, or, you know, what's the strategy for this race, really?
Sorry, I just watched Scotty Designs do a perfect spin at turn 1. I think, yeah, strategy certainly is going to be key, but with any of these races, I think it's just a case of keep out of trouble. If you don't get caught up in any instance with either your own class or slow-moving classes, then you're going to have that opportunity to make up positions. So sometimes you don't always have to drive 100%. Driving at 80% through some traffic could be better than someone driving 100% and making that mistake.
And if we move on to looking at the championship picture, obviously you're leading the way, yourself and Sueli Almeida, after his very impressive victory in the GT3s last week. Does that change your approach at all? Maybe a little bit more cautious? I know that cautioners, you've been absolutely destroyed. I'm guessing that is by Scotty. I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
No, that was me turning it to Alex.
Oh, there's another one on the list. But does it change your approach at all being the championship leader, or is it still just going all guns blazing?
Not at all. I think if I start caring too much about the championship, you've got to question whether Brendan Lee's back in the car for me. So I don't think I'm going to take any sort of different attitude. They did really well last week to score some good points to take us. I think we were like 2nd or 3rd after the first 2 rounds, and then to put ourselves in the lead. Yeah, it's a great place to be, but there's still a lot of races left to go, and anything can happen in these races. I don't think there's any reason to put too much effort into them because all it takes is a slow-moving car to get in your way, to hold you up in traffic, to lose you time, or causing a collision as well to make that mistake. So I think, yeah, there's no need to put too much pressure on it. Just go out there, keep having fun, keep doing what I'm doing, and enjoy it, really.
Perhaps as a last question, I might ask, has it been a lot easier the past couple of races to get used to overtaking the slower cars, or is there's still that element now in the championship of, you know, you've got to be very careful?
I think you've still got to be careful because every circuit is different. I mean, that's an obvious thing to say, but like, I think there's going to be different parts of the circuit where some places are easy to overtake. Of course, Fuji here, this start-finish straight, so easy to overtake so many of these cars, but you get caught up in turn 4, things are going to be very, very different. So everything changes with every race, but you do certainly learn, you adapt, you figure out how to maybe be a bit more patient. I think that's probably the key in these races, and where people maybe excel when they do more multi-class races is they learn a little bit of patience. Sometimes you don't just have to send it from a mile back, because if that car is unsighted, if they don't look in their mirrors, they're going to turn across you and they're going to take you both out. It's not worth the risks. So sometimes it's waiting and thinking, well, there's another straight coming up. I can wait 1 or 2 corners. I can get the overtake there, and I'm still alive in this race.
A fine balancing act, I'm sure. And I'm also sure there'll be some slightly dicey battles and dodgy moments going on. I think both of us can agree on that. We wish you the best of luck for this evening's action, Hayden. Hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully you enjoyed as well.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Hayden Gullis there. Everybody looking to try and extend his championship lead, as he's absolutely obliterated there by none other than Scotty Designs. I thought it would be Scotty before. It is on the second time of asking, no longer Alex Gillen jumping in. But we mentioned the championship standings, Hayden leading the way along with Sueli Almeida. This is how it looks. 5 points clear at the summit after that brilliant win for Suelio in the GT3s last time out in Indy Road. Just behind them is Resicchioso, winner of round 1 in the Indy Series, alongside Ancephalos on 99 points. But behind them, it is really tight. Third place Hyperstar and Chestnut there on 85, just 15 ahead of Pole Noodles.sim in 6th. And Aidan Pole, for the first time 2 weeks ago, getting knocked off his perch, finishing only 3rd in the GT3 class. And even the bottom 2 as well, only 32 points adrift of the top 3. And that means, John, as we know with multi-class racing, fortunes can change in a flash. One good week and your outlook is completely transformed.
Literally, what has happened in the championship is a few teams have managed to score consistent points, maybe not even wins, across the board in multiple classes, and that means that you just get so many points on the board that you overtake people that have had one decent result. I mean, looking at Aidan Pole, for example, they sit 6th in the championship, but it's really, really tricky. For example, Ancephalos was driving his race last time out and just was taken out. So it's very unfortunate sometimes, because you think you're doing everything to keep yourself in the championship standings, but as we know, as you referenced in multi-class racing, sometimes just the unexpected can happen. So it's going to be a mix between just keeping yourself out there on track and trying to score some big points. Notable absentee here is Ryan L83, who did really well in the championship, had a few PC issues, so that will weigh on their championship hopes as well.
100%. And he's not the only one that's had a few issues. We know that Soup Noodle Bagel's been struggling with some technical difficulties as well. But before we get started, let's have a look at how the drivers will be starting and lining up on the grid. The rolling start with the Indies obviously at the front. And it is Unsafety Car 2, also known as Scotty Designs, by the way, starting on the front row alongside Zayla Plays with the Zayla Plays Grand Poubet partnership. Just behind them, following in Hot Pursuit, Punju, who didn't have the best of times last time out, finishing a lap down. Bit of a stinker for himself with Aerotech, who's another driver that's found himself embroiled in a few bumps and scrapes, I think it's fair to say, throughout this campaign. On row 3, just behind those two, interesting battle here. Gillen versus Gullis. It's a clash of the titans, everybody. You cannot miss Gillen with that livery. And I think we're going to have to cut short the grid rundown because, excitingly, we're almost ready to start.
Yeah, it seems like the procedure has been jumped a little bit, so we're just trying to figure out exactly what is going on. As you can see, quite a few cars still in the pit lane. So it's going to be an interesting one, because obviously every single race you have the reverse grid. So the drivers that are theoretically the fastest start at the back of their respective pack, and so into that turn 1 today with the hairpin, that's going to be tricky, isn't it?
100%. It's going to be fascinating. And that's something that in the GT3s, Aidan Pole traditionally has been excellent at, working his way through the traffic, getting up to P1 or P2 in class within the first 2 or 3 laps. We should say as well, with Suelio and Aidan Pole this week, they have got a little bit of a handicap.
Yeah, they've been added 15 kilos onto the... this is an interesting race start, Punju.
Who's this just on their own?
Taking the easiest lap one. Yeah, it is.
Lewis Hamilton 2021 at Hungary vibes here, as everybody else is in the pits. Punju seemingly has got lost, stumbled onto the grid on his own, and with green flag running. And that's a beautiful start for Punju. He can just roll down the main straight, not a care in the world, and he's got himself into the lead.
Yeah, there's a speed camera half the way down the straight, so you've got to be careful, you'll get tickets for it. And I think everybody's just trying to figure out what exactly has happened, because as you could well imagine, that's not exactly how the race is meant to be started. You've got the green flag going, and this is looking more like an F1 testing sort of start of the race. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Unsafety car is on track, so I think the unsafety car is going to take over for the race start for us.
I think the best way to summarise is you can see it says green flag in the top left with the yellow flag appearing. That's what describes what we're going through at the moment. As everybody piles out of the pits, you can just see the unsafety car there. Very small in stature, but incredibly big in heart, I think the best way to put it. Leading the lead Indy cars around what will be an effective formation lap.
I think I can summarise it in one sentence. Welcome to Creator Series, everyone. It's not meant to start this way, so what I think has happened is the timing has just jumped a few minutes ahead and has caught a few drivers out. So what's going to happen is that the unsafety car is just going to do the formation lap, which is meant to do by the standard iRacing safety car. So they will all line up in their positions. That hasn't changed, and so we should get a clean race start here. It will be unsettling for the drivers, though, because obviously, there's a little bit of apprehension and misunderstandings, perhaps. And so, will the driver go slightly early? You don't know. Everything can happen in Creator Series, but it does look like everyone's got it sorted out. Just going back to my initial point, then, 15 kilograms for Suelia Almeida and Aidan Pohl, just because, well, they're apparently too good and they need to be a little bit nerfed. And so, looking at the times in practice, it seems to have worked a lot. And they are dropping about 7 to 8 tenths, so that should bring them in line with everyone else.
And that could be a big change, especially in a championship with Almeida leading the way alongside Gullis. Pohl has been almost a one-man team at the moment with the issues that Super Noodle Bagel has had from a technical standpoint throughout this season so far. But we wait as we move into the second half of the lap to kickstart things. Everybody that is joining us, first of all, welcome. If this is your first time, make yourself comfy, everybody, because this could be absolute carnage, especially with a semi-aborted start on our hands. 3 classes on the grid. At the front, you can see the Indy cars. Then we have the GT3s. And then at the back, just for some added spice, just in case that wasn't enough, we've got GR86s coming to the party with some community entries in there as well. So we're just going to see what happens here with the unsafety car, what the formation will be as we round the final corner. You can see that incredibly long start-finish straight with Scotty Designs, by the way, leading the Indy cars around the final corner. And we wait to see. I mean, we don't know ourselves in the commentary box. It's going to be a surprise to absolutely everybody what happens as we roll sedately, I think, down the main straight as Scotty continues to sit and watch and wait in behind. And we'll see. The anticipation is building, and I think we have had the grid coming up again. So there is Punju and Josh's corner. I doubt they'll be starting side by side. It has to be honest, with them being in different car classes.
I think what's happened is it's taken the standings from the first lap, technically. Let's see.
There is your grid. This should be what you can see. And once again, it is Scotty Designs. By the way, the unsafety car too that will be starting from pole with Zayla plays alongside in the Williams liveried Indy car behind them. Punju and Aerotech both embroiled in battles in the last few weeks. Hopefully, we'll be trying to come through unscathed. Then an almighty skirmish. It's Gillen versus Gullis on row 3. Watch out for that one. There could be some afters involved between that pair. And following in just behind those two, Brendan Hyperstar winner in round 2 and Solstice. Or I've got 83 problems, but a corner ain't one, substituting in for Ryan L83. Row 5 sees the GT3 cars. Josh's corner finished the lap down last week. We'll be looking to go one better. Josh has also had a few issues in his orange and black Acura, just outside the top 10. It's Des was saying that he wants to improve on that 0% record of getting through the first lap unscathed. Needs to try and keep his wits about him with Ancephalosis for company on row 6. Then behind them, Storm Molina in the 007 Aston Martin, licensed to thrill you would hope, with Graham Poubet alongside in the BMW. And then behind them, we're moving into the big guns. Sparks, the Season 2 iRacing Creator Series champion, in the number 1 car alongside Aidan Pohl, who couldn't quite make it a hat-trick of GT3 wins to start off the season. And then we go into Greedy Me, who looks slightly out of place there in the Indy car. And alongside will be Tic Tac 1, the first of the GR86s. That is going to be a barrel of laughs, I'm sure. We'll go through them quickly. Timo, Dutch, and then we have Gosh Dam rejoining as the English driver, starting from position 20. Behind them, the Dutchman, it is Elle Bird, and then Mia Rose from Australia down under, hoping to be our Australian ace. Carl McGuinness returns to almost won the first race in the GR86s. Diamgal goes from 24th, and then towards the back, we're not going to say right at the back because that feels a little bit harsh, it's Flyer X and Osoy in 25th and 26th. I think I've just seen the unsafety car disappear, so on the back row will be Clark and Ben Serter rounding out our grid lineup.
It's a heck of a lineup, as you could say. A lot of talent in there, a lot of drivers hoping to put smiles on everyone's faces, either through a big crash or indeed a good race victory. We'll have to wait and see which one applies to each driver, but I've got to say that this is the stage in the season where drivers have to put their foot down and get the results as they round that ever so excruciating long final turn 16 there on to the start finish straight. And when will Scotty Designs go? What do you think?
I think he'll try and leave this as long as possible. Doesn't want to get slipstream past. You can see the GT3 cars aren't too far away, but it is pedal to the metal as Scotty guns it coming out of the final corner. And we're coming up to cut the beam to kickstart round 4 of Season 3 in the iRacing Creator Series. Multi-class mayhem ensue, everybody, as Scotty leads them down into the heavy braking zone of Turn 1. Don't want to arrive here with cold brakes, trying it around the outside. Goes Zayla place. Got to be careful because Aerotech and Punju will be nipping at their heels. And you can really use the track limits there on the exit of Turn 1 and 2 through Turn 2. Hayden Gullis has dropped back a little bit. You can see Alex Gillen getting stuck in, but he's already been passed by Hyperstar. Gullis down to 7th ahead of Solstice. And Green round. I think that is Aerotech who's already dropped it, tapping the barrier, tapping the Armco, and off into the grass.
Yeah, what a great start by Aerotech, but it just didn't pan out otherwise. And that is Grand Poubert, I think, spinning.
Aiden Pole getting tagged. That is the favourite coming in that is facing the wrong direction halfway around the first lap.
Yeah, so unfortunate. I think that was Grand Poubert caught up in that one as well. The BMW not getting out of that unscathed. So a lot of drama happening on this first lap. Zella nearly dropped it in Turn 1 on the outside as well on the grass. So absolute carnage. And again, those tricky corners, those fast-flowing corners, really not helping out whatsoever.
He really needs to get temperature into the brakes heading down into Turn 1. Scotty Designs battling to try and hold on to places. He's off the road in his duel with Punjo over second place. Zayla already afforded the opportunity to scamper off into the distance as we round the final corner, flat out for the first time, 2 by 2 behind, because it was Hyperstar battling away with Gullis, battling away with Gillen, I should say. Gullis battling away with Solstice as Scotty Designs tucks into the draft underneath the rear wing of Punju's 13 IndyCar with nearly 2 seconds in hand. Zayla's got in front. Scotty Designs under pressure though because Brendan Hyperstar right in the thick of this battle, and boy does he know it. Got to be careful of Gullis and Gillen sending it down the inside. Scotty tentative under braking and rolls out the red carpet. Buffet driving, the two of them help themselves.
Yeah, I tell you what, Hayden was brave on the brakes there. Probably the latest breaker of that one. Alex Gillen and Brendan Hyperstar trying to make a move as well. Brendan just not managing to get the traction on the exit, though. Alex Gillen up the inside. That may be an overtake there. No, Alex decides to back out that one. Probably a little bit of understeer. It's so difficult when you got the switchbacks there. Hayden on the grass, nearly swapping ends there, but thankfully... Oh, contact here. That's Ancephallosis and Joshima's. It looks like Ancephallosis just trying to go for the same bit of tarmac, and once again he finds himself spun around, and that's damage on the car. Looks like Joshima's got away with it scot-free.
Front bumper of the Merc torn off there in the contact between the Mercedes and the Acura. Joshima's counting his lucky stars there as Ancephallosis sent off into the pickets as we ride on board with Alex Gillen. The 77 car holding 4th place. A little look to the inside from Punju. They were just trying to entice Brendan Hyperstar into a little bit of a blunder into the braking zone as we come round through the final corner again. Punju differing lines you can see there. Alex Gillen trying to tie to line. Punju sweeping in from out wide, and he actually gets a lovely exit.
Yeah, Punju knows how to drive these cars really well, and prioritising the exit is the way to go because they're quite tricky, quite snappy on throttle. And look at that, Hayden Gullis alongside Alex Gillen trying to go for a move, trying to put pressure on. He's under pressure now into Turn 1. Will Hayden brake later? These two love to race each other, but just not happening. Alex Gillen taking the wide line, leaving space on the inside, but it's just so difficult to get the throttle down. It's not happening for Hayden Gullis at the moment. Meanwhile, in the GT3s, as we get a shot of Joshima's there and Aiden Pole. Oh, Joshima's mistake, and that allows Aiden Pole through. And the worst part about that is Joshima's is going to lose speed all the way down the start-finish straight. But look at that, Josh's corner with a 2.5 second lead at the moment to It's Dev TV.
100%. That was a little bit code brown as we're already catching the GR86. He's got to be careful here. We're on board with Aerotech, who's all over the back of Scotty Designs. And look at that, braking so early there is Scotty. Didn't fancy that one, Jot, as Aerotech says, I'll have a piece of that down the inside into Turn 10 of Dunlop, and up into 8th position he goes. Josh's corner, like you said, good start. I can happily report as well that It's Dares has come through the opening salvos unscathed. There's only 2 seconds off the back of the 99 Ferrari, with the reigning champion Sparks rounding out your top 3. Not been great for either of the big guns. Aiden Pole has recovered after that early spin and getting tagged and sent around on the first lap, back up into P5 in the Porsche. But it's not been great for Ancephallosis with that damage that he picked up a long way back with some limited aerodynamics, I should say.
Yeah, look at that gap that Mia Rose has as well into... Oh, that is Zella already overtaking the GR86s. But, yeah, Mia Rose has got a great start in GR86s, but we'll have to wait and see how that gap pans out because as you can see, now the IndyCars are coming through for the overtakes, and you've got to time it right. The approaches, as we've seen this season, are so difficult to get right, and only one little misjudgment can just send you off into the barrier and send off a pile of cars with you.
Bungie was very close there to dangling a nose down the inside of Hyperstar. Look at this. It's a car park as we head into the hairpin of turn number 6. Got to be careful. Got to have your wits about you as Gullis tries to follow Gillen through. But down the inside, diving down the inside, picking the pocket of Gullis. I think that is Solstice taking 5th place off the hands of the 66 car. And now around the outside Aerotech, there was just about enough space there for him to squeeze on through. This is Gosh Damn putting the pressure on Clark. Both of them battling for podiums in the GR86 class earlier on this season. We'll be hoping to be fighting inside the top 3 later on as we continue this battle through the second half of the lap.
Elbert and Timo there just having an inter-team battle in terms of liveries. At least they are in the teams, but it's really tricky in this GR86 because you can get the slipstream, but it's got so little aerodynamics. The dirty air does still have a little bit of an effect, and so you can get a lot of washing on these long turns on the front tyres, and you just end up overheating them at the end of the lap, and you just can't get close enough. So slipstreaming and that braking into turn 1 can have so much of an effect. We'll have to wait and see. Will they be able to get an overtake done? It is looking like Elbert is closing in at the moment, but will they go alongside? Tic Tac looks to well, no, Tic Tac isn't defending. Elbert to the inside, then it'll be last of the late breakers. Will they try and get the car rotated on the brakes? Can be a tricky one. They do have ABS and traction control enabled by default, and Tic Tac tries to close and do the switch back, but nothing happening. Elbert up into P3.
Nice move there, almost a little bit of contact as it got dicey there in the second part of the apex of turn 1. Just in front of them, the battle rages on for the lead in class in the GR86s, but we return to the IndyCars with Greedy Me and Hayden Gullis. Hayden, I think, has had a bit of a whoopsie around there somewhere, was battling away with Alex Gillen, now lost nearly 4 seconds to the 77 car, and under the cost from the 48 of Greedy Me. Still Zayla leading the way, 3 seconds clear of Hyperstar, with Punju still very much for company for the 10 car. Then you've got Gillen and Solstice rounding out your top 5. It's Dez and Sparks have both managed to slash the gap in the GT3s, and Josh's corner, well, was going to be under pressure, but now the timing chart has updated, and it's Dez dropping back to 3 seconds away from the 99 Ferrari.
I think just to say about Hayden Gullis, he is struggling on those softer compound tyres, as we see Aidan Pohl here just trying to attack Storm Molina. So that balance of performance definitely having an impact on both Suele Almeida and indeed on Aidan Pohl. It just looks like they can't get the car turned in, and because they've got a heavier car, they have to just take it a little bit more careful. It doesn't change the fact, though, that with talented drivers, they can find a way past. Storm Molina just not managing to get the Aston Martin turned in whatsoever, and so through goes Aidan Pohl, but he's got a sizable gap to catch now to make up any more positions.
With the pace he's got, considering on off, I think that is one of the IndyCars. Is that Aerotech again that's had a little bit of a problem? No, it's Scotty, who's had a few adventures out there a number of times already. Remember, started from pole, now right at the back of the IndyCar scene. We'll see what's going on here. Passing the Lamborghini of It's Des into the braking down into turn 10 of Dunlop. Did he get it wrong? Just a little bit too hooked over the curb. Now taking a trip through the grass, which is almost like sheet ice if you're not careful, and just make his way through the runoff area.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Just trying to make up for... I think this is Greedy Me, yeah, attacking Hayden Gullis. You can see the difference of the tyres. You can see Hayden just trying to turn, but it's understeering and oversteering. Sort of forward and going to defensive, but he just can't get any traction. Up the inside goes Greedy Me. A little bit too greedy, though. He'll have to get the slipstream to get this overtake done. But it's looking like around this track, with so many very fast and flowing corners, like 100R, you have to go for the harder compound, as Greedy Me is up the inside, looking to make that overtake even before turn 1.
Should be fairly regulatory, and is, although you mentioned the alternate tyres there, Punju's still doing a very good job on the red walled rubber, still clinging onto the coattails of Hyperstar in the battle for second and third. So clearly it's Gullis really struggling with the overheating of those tyres, in particular Aerotech only 2.5 seconds behind them. Then you've got Scotty Designs, by the way, a minute off the back of the number 3 Aerotech in position number 8. It's Dez is dropping through the field like a stone, though. I wonder if the Lamborghini has fallen foul of maybe a little bit of contact from second down into 5th. Can't see him in the background. Is, yes, a long way back. So I wonder if we'll get a replay of that in not too long to see what happened to Dez. He survived the opening lap, but as we reach quarter distance, he has come a cropper, battling here with Sparks, the reigning champion, over 2nd and 3rd. Does he dive it to the inside? Yes. Is there going to be the space left? Well, Sparks, very kind there, but on the inside, just gets a little bit too lively with the loud pedal and loops that car around.
It's again that difficulty in traction in the GT3s. You have confidence, you nail the throttle, and then at some point the traction control just goes, no, I can't deal with this anymore. You're going to have to take manual control, and by that time it's already too late. As we referenced, Punju still attacking on those option tyres with, I think that's Alex Gillen behind the livery, just having a little bit of a flaky action on the screen there. As we have Greedy Meat once again up the inside of Hayden Gullis. They're still battling, and they've got the GT3s to contend with. That is Storm Molina on the outside. Hopefully no contact. Hayden just sort of crouching them on the insides there, but Greedy Meat just wise to that and still getting to the apex. And the problem is for Hayden, the longer he sits behind Greedy Meat, the more the overheating, especially of the front tyres, will take effect, as now they've got the GR86s to contend with as well.
They've got to hang it around the outside, and that's going to take even more out of the front tyres in particular. So at the moment, Gullis writing checks that his tyres very much can't cash, although he is close to the back of Greedy Meat. He gets a little bit pulled behind one of the GR86s into turn 6, now having to duck and weave through them. Gullis senses maybe an opportunity to try around the outside, but weaving through they go. Look at that, left, right, trying to find the space. Sparks in there in the GT3 as well. Gullis coming with some gusto into turn 10. It's actually Greedy Meat who gets up the inside of Sparks, and Hayden going to have to go the long way round to dispose of the Audi GT3 car. For the time being, Greedy Meat will put some distance between himself and the 86 of Gullis. Further forward, this is Alex Gillen perusing up to the back of Punju, and you get the feeling that these places could trade in not too long time.
Yeah, Zella, meanwhile, is pulling away in the distance. You can see them just up the road there. And Punju has to go defensive here. He's put up a brilliant defence, and you can see the deployment there. Alex Gillen using the push to pass, where the arrows just go to the right on the screen. That means they have more power available, and they are deploying it to get the overtake done. And Alex up the inside, you'd think he'd get the overtake done. Punju with a little bit of a switchback, just can't get the traction though on the exit. They have 200 seconds of push to pass to use in this race, and they have to use it selectively because they will run out on this very long straight. Look how Punju is basically pushing Alex around the corner. I have the distinct impression that the option tyres are good on the first part of the lap, but then they start overheating in sector 3.
Yeah, still punchy there, Punju, putting Gillen under the cost, but this is where you would imagine on the primary compound that Gillen can just start to stretch his legs and pull clear. Just over 6 seconds away from the leader in class, Zayla, who's doing a really solid job. Consistent lap times out in front, still solidly lapping faster than Brendan Hypestar to the tune of half a second on the previous lap. Still Punju sternly examining the rear geometry of Alex Gillen's 77 car. Hasn't managed to extend the gap as maybe we were expecting. Josh's corner still leading the way for the GT3s ahead of Sparks, but Aidan Pole just cruising up to the back of the leading duo. Now just 3 seconds away from Josh's corner, and after being deposed as the winner for the first time, knocked off his perch for the first time this season at Indy Road, I think Aidan Pole is coming here with a bit of vengeance.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of narrative, isn't it? That you have to sort of bounce back from bad sessions. It will happen in the championship. You will have a bad race, but it's all about what you do after that, how you reset the mindset, how you go again. And I think it does help in the Creator Series that the drivers take it as a bit of fun as well, so they don't have that pressure of sort of going for it 100%. And I think that really means that every driver has a capacity to bounce back. Aidan Pole, you can see the triple screen set up there. That is incredibly beautiful, and I must admit, having tried one myself, you just feel as if you're in a race car, and you always get afraid of just sending it too hard because you don't want to hit the barriers, and then you remember, hang on a minute, it's a simulator, I can still do that. Hasn't been the race so far for Aidan Pole in P3, so not doing too bad, but the gaps in GT3 have been a bit bigger than I expected. And I'm wondering whether it's a play in aerodynamics or just having to back out of it because the Indy cars are sending ludicrous moves while trying to overtake.
Well, if you consider the fact that he was pointing in the wrong direction halfway around lap 1 to get into this position where you can see the 2 leaders in class just ahead, I think he has done a pretty damn decent job. A second quicker than Corner on the previous lap, half a second faster than Sparks as well. So taking chunks of time out of the leaders despite having that 15-kilogram bop added to his car, the equivalent of 1 adult beaver, don't you know, as the Porsche rise through the sweeps of the middle sector, jumping down into turn 10 we go. This is where he's been strong. I've seen Aiden Pole really confident under braking in that Porsche. You can see their Sparks not really troubling the apex of 10, and also through 11 and 12. That is going to put Pole right underneath his rear wing.
Indeed it will, and I tell you what, Aiden Pole's just demonstrating how you can go fast at this track, just keeping it extra smooth. You might notice Josh's Corner and Sparks just sort of oversteering the car at certain moments and having to correct oversteer, but you can see Aiden Pole, possibly it being also the Porsche, might be a better sort of combination to get that rotation without the excessive oversteer. And you can see he's close this time, is about half a second by my calculation. The timing says 4/10. This could be an overtaking opportunity. Sparks weaving on the start finish straight just to make sure to deny him the opportunity for at least one more lap. But this GT3 battle at the front is closing up with every person within a second now in this top 3.
Really working hard there to break the turn. For the time being, the R8 does have it covered down into turn 1 as Pole carrying a lot of speed there, slightly wide through turn 1 as he tries to put his foot to the floor to get as close as he possibly can to Sparks in front on the run up into Coca-Cola turn 3. And this is where it is going to be difficult to follow with the dirty air coming off the cars in front. But if he can stick like glue to the back of the reigning champion, he might have an opportunity down into the braking zone of turn 6. But they're both catching up to Josh's Corner as well, darting to the inside. Does he show the nose? Yes. Sparks leaves in the space. Generosity acquired there from the Audi. But look at that, Josh's Corner really slow on the exit of 6 as well. He might be handing a couple of places over here for not much beneficiary, because this is the reigning champion to the inside. Is Josh's Corner going to be defenseless? Flames coming out of the back of the Ferraris. To the inside goes Sparks into Dunlop turn 10. Should have that move. One and done. Aiden Pole a little bit bulked behind them, but it is now the R8 of the reigning champion. Sparks jumped into the leading class.
Yeah, I tell you what, Aiden Pole, oh, just a tap there, and around goes Sparks, corrected. I think everybody's still in, no, they aren't. Sparks is round, just tapped twice there. The first one recovering that spin, but the second one spinning them all the way around. Let's see if we can get a replay of this. So Aiden Pole just the inside, the confidence on the brakes, just a tap is carrying the overspeed. The one tap resets them, the second tap spins them all the way around once again. What such an unfortunate event. Sparks had nothing really to do with that. Aiden Pole just an excessive amount of confidence in there and just not accounting for the other drivers maybe not having the apex speed. That still puts them in P3, but they are now 7 seconds adrift, and that puts Josh's Corner back into first place with a bit of an ego tap there for Aiden Pole.
100%, yeah. Bit of a clumsy move there. Unlike Aiden Pole, there's more contact. This time it's a clumsy move from Josh's Corner into turn 1. Slams into one of the GR86s who goes spinning off into the pickets, and suddenly Pole straight back underneath the rear wing of the Ferrari. Was in the Corvette to start the season. Now commandeering the Porsche and down the inside into 3. That is Aiden Pole into the leading class for the first time officially this season. He got it for about half a second as he was battling away with Sparks, but then made contact with the Audi, and now he gets the Ferrari in front. Made contact with one of the Toyotas.
Yeah, very unfortunate, just late braking, to be honest. I think Josh's Corner was under pressure there. I'm not exactly which GR86 that was, but yeah, just a sense of trying to defend the position. And we've seen in that last lap that Aiden Pole is so late on the brakes. So I think Josh's Corner has just lost confidence and has allowed Aiden Pole to go through, just trying to reset the performance there a little bit. They'll follow in the line of Aiden Pole, trying to get a sense of where to go. On that previous lap as well, they went off track, and that created the whole concertina effect, where Sparks was able to close in and then Aiden Pole as well, and that led to the further complications. So it just emphasizes how difficult it is to drive around this track, and yeah, just that the GT3s apparently today have devil's horns growing out of them.
100%, yeah. He came from a long, long way back, didn't he, Josh's Corner? So, like I said, maybe just a little bit concerned, driving in his mirrors, thinking about what Aiden Pole was going to be doing. This is Carl McGuinness battling away with Mia Rose and Elbird, first, second, third in the GR86 class. McGuinness slightly wide there, gives the opportunity for Rose to show it to the inside. It's going to become the outside for turn 7, and McGuinness should have the high road for the time being. Going to be in the defensive mode again, though, on the run down into turn 10. Got to watch for the 304 of Elbird behind. Rose does doesn't fancy it down the inside into Dunlop. Neither does Elba, trying to pick the pocket of one or two, potentially, of the cars in front. And for the time being, McGuinness will hold on to this. But if you remember, back to Road America, the season opener, was challenging for the victory in the GR86 class. And then things unravelled very, very quickly. There it is off the road. Is that the commentator's curse? No, he manages to catch the slide. Armful of opposite lock, perhaps, as he rides the bumps in the GR86. Pretty nice indeed, but still absolutely all over the place.
I think that's the one moment where you can be thankful for the traction control. Right there's Kyle McGuinness very, very wide in that exit phase of the corner. And written on that rear wing, please don't hit me, I have a race to do. So it's an interesting one to put on the back of a GR86 with such fast cars. I'm not sure the IndyCar will have the time to read that, especially if they're going into the back of them. But I think we're about to see what is happening in this GR86 class. I was suspicious of it. Bump drafting. If you look at the times, Clark in P4 is 4 seconds behind because the top three are bump drafting. And if you see behind Clark, Ben Serda is in P5 1/10 behind. So nobody going for an overtake into turn one. But it looks like Kyle McGuinness is actually wide. Will Amir Rose get up the inside? No, not quite. But that means that if you're not in the pack, if you're not in the front three, you can't close in. You're gaining about 0.4 of a second doing that on the straight. And so it just becomes an impossible task. They have to work together. Clark and Ben Serda too have to work together at least.
100%. Doing the bump drafting nicely for Kyle McGuinness. A kiss for a rose, perhaps, as the 301 goes into the back of the 311, and the 304 does the same as they try to, like you say, keep the guys behind at arm's length. As diving into pit road we go. Got to be committed into the pit lane because you don't want to give up time. Alex Gillen is in. Zayla, Brendan Hyperstar, Punji. This is the lap. The button being pressed. Everybody diving in for a brand new set of boots and some fuel.
Yeah, indeed. A little bit earlier than I would have expected. I guess people just not being able to make the fuel last with the long pit straight. That means that, in theory, at least, we'll see maybe 2 pit stops. I think everybody was trying to hang it out until an unsafety car. It hasn't happened since the start of the race, although technically we have had an unsafety car. But that one will be questionable. Brendan Hyperstar are going past, but I think they're taking less fuel on board as far as I can see. A 9-second pit stop, a 20 and counting set. I think that's maybe glitched there. But I did see like a 17-second pit stop.
Wow. That is a long one there for Scotty Designs, who I have to say has actually been in the pits for quite a while. But that's unsafety car 1, Micah Mixer. We've seen Scotty in the pits for a while. Zayla still in the pits also. But we see now coming out. This is, that is Punju, is it? Yes, just ahead of Gillen. And Zayla still in the pits.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's happened. Damage, I didn't notice any collisions. I didn't notice any debris on the road as they go around the outside, which becomes the inside of Ancephalosis, who's staying out of the way since the contact last week. He's just leaving a very wide gap. There's the GR86 that got into the, was the victim of Josh's corner, let's say. And yeah, it's going to turn into one of those races where strategy is paramount. Hayden Gullis in the pits as well. So it looks like the fuel just won't go the distance. Zealous still in the pits. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but they have definitely lost the race lead.
Approaching 90 seconds. You wonder maybe if she's crashed into the back of the unsafety car. This is unfortunate there for the leader in class that was comfortable out in front. Bulletproof, you could say, was keeping Brendan Hyperstar at arm's length. The gap was hovering 3 to 4 seconds, but now that's over 90 seconds lost in pit road. Eventually Zayla gets going, but that, you would imagine, is race run.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. It seems like a lot of people are going for a 2-stop. So this has nothing to do, obviously, with Zella, Zella's issues, but they're out. As far as I can see, they're back out on the track. But that's a solid minute lost, and that is very unfortunate. That drops them pretty much to the back of the pack. I can only anticipate there might have been some damage due to running over a curb, or just something going on with the suspension of the car, which takes a very long repair time. That's sort of the estimate that I'd have for a fast repair of something very serious. Maybe even a downshift too far and possibly doing some damage to the engine, although that's a little bit of a stretch. If you do damage to the engine, that's quite a hefty repair afterwards. But yeah, very, very puzzling one. We'll have to maybe ask them if we can at some point.
Yeah, you feel like you'd notice as well if you blow the gearbox up on the downshifts. Maybe some signs, some smoke explosions, but they are now down in position 8. There's Scotty Designs through the final corner. Wide goes Sparks as he renews his spoils with Aidan Pole. They've already had a few tete-a-tetes so far, with Pole just tapping the back of Sparks and sending that Audi R8 spinning around dropping out of the lead in class. They're going to renew it now. Eyeball to eyeball down the straight. But look at this. Getting boxed in is the Audi. Clever racing there from Pole as he gets the position done. Smart racing IQ. Sparks with nowhere to go. Boxed in on the left-hand side. And the Porsche comes through. I have to say as well, everybody watching in chat, hopefully you've enjoyed almost the first 50% we've had so far. Just going back to the Josh's Corner incident, Bistro, I've just seen in the chat, that wasn't Josh's Corner, but that is a 10 out of 10 for that little pun. I'm a big fan.
Gotta love that one. I'll give that a 10 out of 10 as well. Wish I would have thought of that one myself. I just want to comment as well. Josh's Corner back up to the lead. Now, last time I checked, Aidan Pole was leading. We haven't seen any incidents, but have we seen a spin at some point or some shenanigans going on? It's not enough time for a pit stop, but somehow Aidan Pole is in second place, not in first place. And that gap of 7 seconds indicates that something has gone wrong at some point. But I don't see any damage on the car, so it's quite puzzling, is it? Oh, hang on a minute. There's some GR86s that might have something to say in it. Maybe they've given the position back to Sparks from that previous incident, as that, I think that is Elbird battling with Kyle McGuinness. Wow,
That's
Sparks up the
That is
inside.
beautiful.
Wow.
Wow, that was opportunistic if I've ever seen it. Maybe just driving with a bit of rage here. He's already been taken out once by Aidan Pole. Now he's been boxed in by Aidan Pole going down the straight. So Sparks just maybe driving with a little bit of rage and aggression there, trying to dovetail and chase back up to the runaway Porsche in front. As there goes the leader in the Indy class, Brendan Hyperstar. Since Zayla was taken out of the equation, he has been very, very comfortable out front. You can see in the background there is Alex Gillen holding second place, almost equidistant. First back to second, back to third, 3.6 seconds to 4.2, with Solstice occupying that final spot inside the top three. But Sparks and Aidan Pole, they are equidistant, 6 seconds away from Josh's Corner, 6 seconds away from the 007. You can see there the Aston Martin of Stormalina, who's just got to be careful because I think that was Punji around the outside. The GR86 battle continues to rage on, still going at it. It's now Elbird in the leading class, ahead of McGillis and Rose, with Clark still a decent whack behind them as well. Need to try and work one over on the leading trio, you would say.
Yeah, if you look at the pace difference, it's quite literally the bump drafting that is having that effect. You can't really do anything if the three cars in front of you are essentially just working with each other. But yeah, at some point you just have to accept it and move on with it. I mean, so many things can happen. We're barely at half distance at this stage, so everything can still happen. I'm still puzzled about what happened to Zella, because they're back up to race pace as well and setting very decent lap time. So whatever happened, it hasn't had a lasting sort of damage or irreparable damage. So as I thought Punja was going to go straight into the back of Sparks then, but they managed to get it stopped around the outside, nearly collecting Sparks once again. Sparks has got to be thinking, what do I have to do to keep people away from me?
Can't catch a break at this stage in the Audi R8. It's going to be Punju lining up Aidan Pole there. Saw a gap to the inside of the final corner. Remember what we were saying? I think it was Hayden pre-race where he was saying the drive that you get out of the corners, the acceleration of the IndyCars isn't actually that great, as Beta Dure, we're going to say to Sparks, is going to dive into pit road for the first time. First of the GT3 leading contenders to make what you would imagine will be their one and only pit stop in this race.
It's interesting that the fuel has gone far enough for them, but not for the IndyCars. That IndyCar tank is quite a small fuel tank. And so we saw in the pit stop, some people taking 9-second pit stops, other people taking 19-second pit stops. So I think some drivers like Brendan Hyperstar, who's in the lead of the IndyCar, are trying to go for an unsafety car. Well, speak of the devil. Commentators curse perhaps, but unsafety car deployed. So anybody that has taken a lower race fuel can now pit and get the advantage of it.
Yes, well, I mean, did you call that? Did you press the button, John? Because that was absolutely perfectly timed from yourself there. There is our little, look at how cute he is, the 995 of the unsafety car, just cruising around, perusing around, looking to catch the Indy cars first and foremost. And then we can see what happens. Whether something caused that unsafety car, as yet, we are still none the wise. But we wait to see if we have seen a cataclysmic collision somewhere out on the circuit, which has meant that our little unsafety car has made his way out onto the circuit.
Problem is, the unsafety car looks like a very interesting target for a few cars. So I'm hoping, just going to point out for the drivers out on track, the unsafety car is not a moving target, although it is very tempting, as the unsafety car is looking to pick up the leader. Still a few cars to go. They're just waiting, or lying in wait, as they should say, as everybody carries on at a mild pace around the lap. There's no sort of maximum time or minimum time that you have to do. So they will just continue cruising around and maybe even make a pit stop straight away. Although you'd have to say for the IndyCars, it's too early for those that picked up fuel. So we'll have to wait and see. As I think that's Greedy Me in the pits. We have Aidan Pole and Josh's Corner in the pits as well. Who will get the better pit stop? We've seen it in the past. Somebody miss their pit box and lose 4 positions. Let's see if that happens.
Race for the pit crews and the race to slam your anchors on. I think the point you make about the IndyCar strategy as well is going to be a fascinating one, as we see Sparks working his way through. They managed, on average, 17 laps the IndyCars got out of that opening stint on the fuel. Now, we're going to have a little bit less than that, maybe 15 laps to the end with all of them coming in now. That should be fine, but you might be a little bit marginal. Remember back to the season opener at Road America, we had 4 or 5 cars caught short by a late unsafety car. They had to pit within the final 3 laps, and that was what handed victory to Reska Kyozo, who managed to manage the fuel very, very efficiently.
We've seen multiple times at, for example, Laguna Seca, or indeed last time out at Indianapolis, some drivers who are at the back of the pack, or of their respective pack, let's say, pit every single lap under the unsafety car to take an additional 1 lap's fuel to make sure that they don't have to do any lift and coast or anything like that. So it can be an interesting strategy, especially as you said, we are on the marginal stage of fuel at the moment, with only maybe a lap's worth of spare if you fill up right to the brim. So I think we'll see cars going into the pits as late as possible, as Punju in the pits there. And yeah, it's going to be a puzzling one, because do you want track position or do you want to pit for fuel? It looks like Brendan, the Hyperstar, and Solstice have said we want track position.
And that's not too surprising. Very, very wide circuit. A lot of opportunities, plentiful opportunities to make an overtake stick. Obviously, the big one, this long start-finish straight where you can time your braking down into turn 1. Absolutely to perfection. We have to apologise to Bishop GP in the Twitch chat that Lewis McGlade wants Curse Jr. You haven't raced since. Sorry, my friend, if we brought up any flashbacks from our commentator's curse.
No, it never happens around here. Commentator's curse is just a myth. I just want to point out as well the unsafety car wobble there. Not sure if you saw it into turn 1, but that car may be a little bit unstable. I'm not sure if it's meant to be driven around such fast tracks as Fuji. I'm not even sure if they're in top gear at the moment, but yeah, it's certainly a tricky car to drive. And I think the biggest problem that people have the moment behind the unsafety cars, tyre temperatures. Now the Indy cars are going quite slow, and you can imagine that the Legends car is going flat out in some of these corners. You know, at the restart, especially with that difficult turn 16, will we see somebody spin it and bin it?
I think we have to extend that to turn 1 as well, because we saw it on the race start at the beginning of lap 1, or lap 2 as it was. You need to be careful with how cold your brakes are. Heavy braking zone down to turn 1, arriving at high speed. If you get that wrong, especially if you're in the mid-pack, you are going to be playing skittles there, down into turn 1. As we see here, this is earlier on in the race. This is the very start. As wide, that is Aerotech. That was the bump over the curb that sent him not actually into the Armco on the right-hand side. I think he just managed to avoid the wall, but he does have a lot of grass, a lot of dirt now scattered and littered around his car.
Yeah, this was Aidan Pole, I think, collision with Grand Poubert, if I'm correct. Looks like the collision actually initially happened with Ancephalosis, and then it was Sparks trying to avoid it on the anchors that's taken out Aidan Pole. So you could say that the collision later on with Sparks was a little bit of karma there. So you see Ancephalosis on the inside. Yeah, there was a tap. The BMW definitely gets tapped on the curb as well, and then just applying the throttle too early, and then just spinning off into the grass and collecting the Armco barrier that Aerotech managed to avoid. This is later on as well, the spin from Joshima's collecting Ancephalosis and then spinning them round for good measure. That's yeah, not ideal. I think a few words may be said about that. And as we've got the interesting Ferrari rear wing there deployed by Ancephalosis there on the front of the Mercedes.
The hooping Ferrari rear wing, if you've been watching testing at all today. Yeah, Ancephalosis, complete innocent bystander there, and an unfortunate one, I think it is fair to say. As we rejoin the action trundling down the start-finish straight. Hello, everybody. We're back on your screens. Brendan Hyperstar, you mentioned drivers will be wanting to try and take a pit stop again under the safety car, willing to give up some track position. Brendan Hyperstar has lost a load of places. He's going to come back through, but Aerotech is now into the pits again.
Yeah, so I think Aerotech is doing the strategy of taking on that additional lap or two of fuel. It makes sense, and especially if they've got some damage to repair, they just wait to see where they are in the pecking order after everyone's made their pit stop, and it's their, well, second to last as it seems, as it looks like Scotty Design sadly is out of the race. We missed that earlier. But yeah, it just makes sense to be able to push the braking zones a little bit further, doesn't it? And for Aerotech, what an unfortunate series of events. They've just been in contact with literally and or metaphorically with the front of the pack at multiple stages of this race, and every single time they've got back up to the front, something else has happened.
Yeah, I mean, series of unfortunate events is probably the perfect way to put it. Surprised Zayla didn't go for the same strategy, to be honest, with the pace that we know the 14 car has got, just trying to have as much of an advantage as possible. The caveat is that I think these cars can probably get to the end of the race at this point. This is Storm Molina, the 007 in the GT3 class, is currently holding position number 4. We're hoping to try and keep Encephalosis, Grand Poobah et al. Behind at bay and maybe challenge the leading trio. Remember back to the season opener, Storm Molina was very much in the fight to finish inside the top 3, but dropped it dramatically with just a couple of laps to go. Threw that away, handed it on a plate to Sparks, who came home in 3rd. So we're looking to try and recover and get back inside the top 3 for the Aston Martin car. But I don't think we're too far away from getting back under green flag running.
Yeah, just before we do, just looking at some of the lap times here. Everybody in the IndyCar is basically doing 126s, low 126s. And Aerotech actually setting the second fastest lap of the race so far. But Zella has another 2/10 with a 125.8. Well, just amazing lap time there, just demonstrating that they have the pace. Meanwhile, in the GT3 category, Aidan Poll has still about 0.3 of a second per lap, but that gap has shrunk from that 1 second that we have, and it means that they're under pressure for sure this race. So the balance of performance definitely working out. As we see, they're going through turn 13, approaching turn 14. Now is that Legends car, and they will be doing somewhat of a good job, I think, of getting out of the way. We have yet to see exactly what's going to happen. If anybody knows, the unsafety car is not very safe on approach to the pit lane and all over the curbs and on the grass, as I say that.
Looks like he's got suspension made of bubbles there as he jumps across the curbs. Going to lose all of the fillings in your teeth as he disappears off into the distance, maybe to slam it into the pit wall. And that car, well, it'll be almost like the bonnet's coming out of the boot by the time it slams into the wall. You can see Brendan Hyperstar behind, getting ready to punch it out of the final corner. Are we going to see the contact into the wall? I mean, there's such a long build-up here. We're going to be racing by the time they slam it into the wall. What an anticlimax is it? I think there's a bit of contact. Once, twice, pinballing over the Armco. As we return back to the action, Brendan Hyperstar looking to put his foot flat to the floor and charge down into the braking zone of turn 1 to get us back underway with Solstice in hot pursuit. Punji 3rd ahead of Gillen and Greedy Me, who are actually side by side. Gillen may be caught short by the restart. Same with Hyperstar, is under the cosh down the inside. Goes Solstice into turn 1. Can Hyperstar keep it planted through 2 around the outside? The answer is yes, and the 10 car does keep hold of the lead in class. Solstice still there on the outside. It'll be a brave drive to try it around the outside of 3, and Solstice eventually backing out of that one. Alex Gillen keeping Greedy Me at bay also for the time being, with Josh's corner leading the GT3 from Sparks, Aidan Poll, Storm Molina and Encephalosis, with Des under pressure there from the beam of Grand Poobah.
Meanwhile, in the GR86s, I think that is Elbert defending from DM Gal. DM Gal up the inside, but will it stick? You can see the lack of aerodynamics having their effect as Elbert all the way across the curbs. These GR86s are just something else, is up the inside. Too wide already, as yeah, it just never ceases to amaze the action here. A lot of drivers here, I think, in the GR86s out of sort of their position before the unsafety car, as well, people are getting crowded over the curb, nearly spun round.
Big old squeeze, big old fishtail as well. Hyperstyle still leading the Indy cars from Solstice. Punja further second back. Greedy Me has disposed of Alex Gillen on this opening lap back under green flag running, and Gillen and Gunnis can now get reacquainted in the battle for 5th and 6th places. They started, of course, on lap number 1. Tucking into the draft, we go with Solstice. How close can we get on the run down into turn 1? Tried it down the inside on the previous lap. Do we think about it again, though? Just a little bit too far back, as Alex Gillen potentially sensing danger with Hayden Gullis and Pop Pursuit having to throw the defensive shape as well. And this is Aidan Pole. Round 3 this will be. Round 4, actually, between Sparks and Aidan Pole. Round 1 went to Sparks. 2 and 3 the favour of the 12 car. The victor in round 1. The victor in round 2. Just eking up to the back of the R8. Defensive move from Sparks as he moves over to the middle of the track. Aidan Pole will have to go the long way round. Tries it under braking. Can we get a decent run with a cutback? Not quite yet, as both run a little bit wide through 1. And we were as we were with Josh's Cornet leading this duo.
I'm not sure if you noticed on the inputs that you could see from that shot of Aidan Pole just completely rotating the car on the brakes, barely having to steer onto the apex, and then just a little bit of twitch of oversteer straight back on the throttle. That's how you maximize a GT3 car. Oh, meanwhile, in the GR86s, that's 2 cars off of the track and into the barrier, sadly. I'm not exactly sure. Was that Clark caught up in that one? Oh, it's
look
4
at this.
wide.
It's 4 wide, and then 3 wide behind. Surely it ends badly and does. Spun into the path of the one on the right goes Diamgal. I think that's Clark caught up in that. The car that was pincered into the wall. Diamgal then hitting the tyre wall at subsequently less velocity as the Armco and the driver on the left-hand side. We can see there just the pinch moving over, trying to get over to the left-hand side, and bang.
I think that was Carl McGuinness pinching on the inside, sadly. I mean, they wanted to get to the outside of the corner to be able to turn in, but I don't think they even realised that they were 4 wide, so they thought they had a little bit of room they could put pressure on, but it has not happened at the moment. Solstice really putting pressure on Brendan Hyperstar, and that is a little bit of is there a tyre difference? There is indeed a tyre difference. So again, those option tyres not really working out well around this, especially sector 3 of the track. So Brendan Hyperstar might be under a little bit of pressure in the closing stages of this race. Solstice really has the hammer down at the moment. A 25.8 on that last lap. 25.7 by Brendan Hyperstar. Incredible pace.
Yeah, Hyperstar does look a little bit ragged. It was slightly wide through turn 3. You can really see how stiff these cars are, how badly they react over the curves, bumping and grinding over the curves on the outside of the corners as Solstice continues to try and apply the blowtorch. Stay as close as they possibly can to the 10 car of Hyperstar, with Punja further second back down the road. Zayla, quickest in the early phases, led the opening salvos. We're passing the GR86s for the first time, getting embroiled and intertwined with Hayden Gullis in the final few corners, as this is Aidan Pole. Round 4 between himself and Sparks. He's going to have to go the long way round because the R8 has the inside line on the run down into turn 10. This was where Sparks got past Josh's corner in the second little bit of contact we saw between the 1 car and the 12. Sparks throwing the defensive shape inside to outside. Aidan Pole looking for the smallest of gaps so that he can fit the 12 Porsche car. Have the outside of 13. Sparks keeping it pinned nicely to the apex and keeps the championship leader in the GT3 class at least at bay for the time being.
Oh, Josh's corner around just a little bit too much on the brakes. I think they might have collected someone there. That is very, very unfortunate. Did they collect Aidan Pole? So Josh's corner just going very late on the brakes. I think just a little bit conscientious that Sparks might be able to chuck one up the inside. You can see the rear has already let loose. And no, they haven't collected anybody, but they've tried to get on throttle and they've dumped it on the grass, which doesn't have a great effect. So that's back down to P5. Incredible seeing Stormalina Grand Prix getting bite. That is Aidan Pole trying to get past.
Big old squeeze applied. Sparks over to the pit wall. Pole switching back over to the right-hand side, the left-hand side of the circuit. Right as we look at it, tries to find the cutback. Gets the drive out of turn 1, flat through 2. Sparks, can he keep his foot in there on the run down into 3? He will have the inside line, but it'll be Pole on the outside with the high road. Who's the last of the late breakers? Pole's the last of the late breakers. Charges round the outside and gets back up into the leading class.
Yeah, couldn't really do much with the Audi in that one. The Audi known for a little bit more understeer than the Porsche, and so Porsche just went round the outside. Aidan Pole knowing that Sparks would have to back out that one. That's Joshima's off the track, perhaps just losing it by himself. We'll have to wait and see. Ancephalosis going possibly for an overtake here. No, Joshima's carried way too much speed. The car let loose even on the curb in the entry to the corner on that one. That's turn 3. That is Zella off the road as well, I think, in turn 1. So a late great braking maneuver. Let's have a look what happened here. Trying to go on the attack. Oh, wow, that's a huge avoidance right there. Very well done. But that was at least 10 meters too late on the brakes.
I think Zayla will have some damage there. You can see cosmetically, at least, the front wing of that IndyCar was just dislodged ever so slightly, and also tapped the Armco on the left-hand side. And that's a little bit of a clumsy error there from Zayla, who was really, really quick, getting in broad with Gullis and with Gillen in the battle for 5th and 6th. And Greedy Me and Punju not too far up the road either. But this two out in front, the duo out in front of Hyperstar and Solstice, have checked out. And as things stand, it is going to be an exclusive battle between this duo for the victory in the IndyCar class. Brendan Hyperstar himself and Chesnord Gaming, who is absent this week, they're third in the team's championship. This will be a nice step forward if it stays as is. As look at this, Alex Gillen all over the back of Greedy Me. Been a little bit quiet in the last few laps as Gillen, but maybe just coming on song and coming on strong in the back end of this race.
Yeah, I think he's gaining confidence. You can see it. He's taking the right lines to attack now around that last turn. Greedy Me under a huge amount of pressure. This is the battle for the podium. You've got Punju ahead of them. They're all deploying their push to pass as well. They know this means a lot. Track position. Alex Gillen late on the brakes. Greedy Me turns in, not willing to give the corner totally, but over the curb they're just lacking a little bit of traction. Will they be able to go to the inside? They deploy their push to pass a little bit earlier, but no, Alex Gillen shuts the door, slams it shut even, and that is them up into P4, waiting to challenge Punju, who's had it all his own way for the moment in P3.
And you can see that Greedy Me got a little bit loosey-goosey there over the curb and over the... Oh, as we're nearly going to lose it again. Back of that car looks very unstable. Maybe overheating the rear tyres. Fortunate that Hayden Gullis wasn't close enough to try and punish that mistake. The two mistakes actually from Greedy Me. The first one out of turn 1 where he lit up the rear tyres. Again coming out of turn 6. He's on the primary compound. Hayden Gullis the same. It's the red rubber for Punju in third. Maybe that's why he's struggling. He also bulked behind. I think that was Joshima's in the Acura now on the inside into 13. Alex Gillen back under pressure from Greedy Me, who's found himself on all the wrong parts of the racetrack as Gillen. But I think he will just hold on to 4th ahead of the 48 Greedy Me. Then Gullis with Punju still at the head of this snake for the time being, although clearly struggling with his tyres.
Yeah, I think a lot of drivers struggling around this track in the IndyCar. You can see them bounce sort of in multiple of the corners. 100R, for example, where we saw them just absolutely on the limits through the corner totally. I think it has to do with the track, really. Japan is known as a seismic area, so lots of volcanic activity, and it does create ripples in the tarmac on various tracks. As Alex having to go defensive there. Greedy Me just positioning the car in the right place to have a run. Punju not getting a great exit as well. So will Alex Gillen be forced to go for it? No, not quite. You've got, I think that's Ancephalosis as well on track. Alongside, Punju is boxed in behind Ancephalosis, and Alex Gillen gets round. What an unfortunate series of events for Punju. Greedy Me is so quick around this part of the track, up the inside, but they can't just make it sick. Hayden Gullis might go all the way around the outside. Not quite, but the battle continues.
Yeah, this is really tight. Punju on all the wrong parts of the road there, and Alex Gillen was very smart in where he was placing his car. Under pressure again is Punju because it's Greedy Me to the inside of turn 10. There's more traffic they're going to have to deal with in the second half of that. Hayden Gullis waiting to pick up the pieces of any skirmishes that go on. Once again, lively at the rear. The smallest of gaps for Gullis to the inside. Got to be careful. Punju on the left. It's Greedy Me in the middle. And I think Punju's been squeezed out of that one. Greedy Me to third. Gullis to fourth. Punju again just found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, and now Zayla's caught them up as well.
Yeah, indeed. Solstice, by the way, is back down to P7. I think they've had to make a pit stop in all of that. We've been focusing on the battle, which continues to carry on as Alex Gillen is trying to storm away from this. Most people deploying their push to pass, but that's an unfortunate series of events. But Zella has the pace at the moment, and they are going to attack. P6 at the moment. I don't expect that to last. Punju going for an attack here on Hayden Gullis. Up the inside. Job done, but they've gone wide a little bit. Some contact made, I think, between the GR86 and Alex Gillen there as they are under pressure once again. So that's up to P5 for the moment. Hayden Gullis down to P6. The gaps will change every corner this lap, I think.
I think Gillen went off on his own accord there down into turn 1, just missed the braking zone. He's going to be under the cosh once again. Greedy Me, Punju, Zayla, Gullis all lining up to take a chunk out of Alex Gillen in second place there. Went for the move on the GR86, got it all wrong, locked up the fronts, locked up the rears, crossed up into the braking zone. but still occupying second place for the time being, having to thread the needle. There's 4 GR86s. Aidan Pole's in there as well. Gillen to the inside of Pole in the Porsche, all the way around the outside. That is the definition of a long way around for Greedy Me, but he makes it work. Makes it work to some tune as well, because Punju, Zayla, Etal, Hayden Gullis still caught up in the traffic.
Yeah, Alex Gillen really lucky there. They did make contact with Aidan Pole, I could see, and you can see a tiny little bit of visual damage there on the front of that Porsche, and that was not the damage they did to Sparks. Oh, off in the background, I think that might be Zella off, I'm not quite sure, but there was, yeah, Zella is missing their front wing, but I think there was someone else called up. I think
Gullis round there. You can see stop. Zayla with no front wing, so they clearly went into the back of one of the cars in the train. Hyperstar into the pits as well, and this is what happened. So this is around the outside. Does he get a tag there, Gullis? No, I think, oh yes he does.
I think there was.
I think that's McGuinness potentially in the GR86 on the inside, and Gullis sent off into the pickets. There's the front wing loss for Zayla, having to get past Aidan Pole, surely be diving into the pit lane, and does, along with Brennan Hyperstar. So that leaves Alex Gillen out in front, but certainly not comfortable with Greedy Me right in the thick of that battle.
I wonder if the GR86 was collected by Zella, who went into Hayden Gullis at the same time, because I distinctly remember an Indy or 2 Indy cars there being caught up in that one. So Alex Gillen has got away with this a little bit for the moment, as Brendan Hyperstar has been in the pits as well. So a lot of drivers just deciding that they can't get the race fuel to the end without a significant amount of lift and coast. So it will be interesting to see if any driver sort of takes the risk to get it to the end. We've seen it before in Creator Series, and we will see it again. It's just a case of who will have the courage, or just indeed nothing to lose, to go for it. Grand Poubert has been in the wars at the moment, under attack now from Josh's corner after that previous incident. They are attacking Stormalina. You can see them, all 3 of them right there in the same shot. So this is the battle for P3, with Sparks and Aidan Pole quite a significant amount up the road.
Yeah, Pole 10 seconds clear of this group. Sparks a further 3 seconds in front of this group, with Pole still leading the GT3 class. Very bumpy over the curbs there. I think that's Stormalina going wide. Invitation sent out for Grand Poubert. Becomes the outside of the final corner, but just understeering. Off the road we go. Hands it straight back on a silver platter to the 007 Aston Martin. Now weaving to try and break the toe. I don't think Josh's corner is close enough to really make any real impression. Down into turn 1. Got to be careful, because that's Hyperstar charging through as well in the IndyCar. He's now 26 seconds off the back of Gillen if he's going to win the IndyCar class. In the middle of the road is the Aston Martin of Stormalina. Grand Poubert in the BMW. It'll have to be the long way round. It's Stormalina that's braver under brakes. Well, Grand Poubert just rolls out the red carpet, waves the white flag. Josh's corner says, okay then, thank you for that one, mate. I'll help myself.
I think they're just recognising that the pace difference is a little bit too much. Grand Poubert definitely getting out of the way, and that's Solstice. And yeah, you can see the confidence here isn't there. Maybe a problem, but it wouldn't make sense for them to lift off so much unless there's a brake problem, perhaps. But at that point, you don't want to have a brake problem around Fuji, of all places.
You absolutely don't. Lost 2 seconds to Stormalina, who was battling, so that's an interesting one. This is a replay of Sparks, who was still close to the back of Aidan Pole. Is the Audi going to loop this round? Is this why we've got a 6-second gap between the leading duo in the GT3 class over the curb? We know the Audi can be stiff. Wow, almost launched into orbit there. The Sauces curb through turn 14, and Sparks doing a decent job to keep it out of the wall. It's going to rejoin out of the lawnmower tracks in the grass. It's Stormalina around the outside. Sparks is going to hold on to this one, and obviously we saw what happened in the battle between Josh's corner, Grand Poubert and Stormalina, but for the time being, Sparks did drop behind them for a little bit.
Yeah, I'll rate that a 6 out of 10, Kansei Dorifto, but not ideal for Sparks there, as they do somehow manage to regain P3 in all of that, but, sorry, P2 in all of that, but it does make their job a little bit more difficult. As you can see, they have created a gap once again, so yeah, a lot going on here. That's Amphicephalosis defending from Joshima's, so everybody getting a little bit more argy-bargy as the laps go down. They know that track position counts over everything, and I must say it's great to see Joshima's having a bit more of a good race here. There's been a few mistakes obviously, but they're getting the hang of it, and they're definitely increasing the pace, which is very nice.
100%. Still battling away hard over 6th and 7th with Encephalosis. There's a further 30 seconds back down the road, so no need to worry about what's going on behind. In the Indy class, it's still Alex Gillen out in front as through goes Hayden Gullis, I think that is, darting from left to right to find his way through. Greedy Meat a second off the back of Gillen. Both of these two are going to be thinking about the fuel situation now. Brendan Hyperstar has actually lost time since he's come out of the pits. He was 26 seconds, now 27.5 off the back of Gillen. So if the 77 car has got enough fuel in the tank, this could be coming up Alex Gillen.
Well, it reminds you of the old Formula One strategies, doesn't it? Of the fact of doing the overcut. If you have a fuel tank that you need to refuel, you want the least amount of fuel in the car to go faster, a bit like a qualifying lap, really. So the strategy with these, or in theory, the strategy that goes the fastest is to stay out the longest, and then you can use the low race fuel to set lap times about 1.5 seconds faster per lap. This is the battle in GR86. Kyle McGuinness defending from, I don't know which one of the cars. There's two with the same livery, but that is indeed, yes, Timo trying to attack. And you can see with the lack of aero, you just have to put it alongside and then do the battle through multiple corners. And so when you go on the brakes, you've just got to defend that inside line. Carl McGuinness going a little bit wide. That'll give him the inside. And the switchback is so much easier in these GR86s. And to the inside goes Timo. And will get the manoeuvre into turn 13. Very long turn 13 off camber. Same for turn 14. You've just got to stick it in there. Hope that you don't get any understeer. Carl McGuinness just demonstrating the perfect defensive strategy, it must be said.
Oh, and there's just the space there for the IndyCar of Punju, that is, to slip down the inside. McGuinness doing a good job. There was contact a couple of times, notably down into 6. You can see there, that was Punju with two wheels up in the air over the sausage curve coming out of the final corner. This battle's going to resume with the Amgal not too far behind, just waiting in the wings to the tune of 3/4 of a second off the back of the driver in position 5. You see how strong the draft and the toe and the slipstream is on the run down into turn 1. The bump drafting is going to continue, though, as team are just giving the love tap to the back of Carl McGuinness as these guys start a new lap. Long way back is Ben Shirley. They've got to be careful, though, because down the inside we go. I think that is Brendan Hyperstar trying to make up for time. And yes, they give the IndyCar quite a wide berth.
Yeah, indeed. It's so tricky when you're trying to anticipate where these GR86s are going, because they can just go for the inside line at the last second, like we've seen on the previous lap there. The gaps in the GR86s have been definitely increasing, and we haven't seen the big battle so far. As we see the battle here, once again, Josh's Corner in third place, defending from Storm Molina. Sparks has gone up the road once again. The pace of the front two in GT3 has been amazing this race, and so it has become a battle for P3, but just not quite close enough for the slipstream there. You can see about 5-6 car lengths, and unless Josh's Corner is going to make a mistake, you're not close enough to make anything happen right there. And Grand Poubert, although giving up time previously, they've actually managed to stick with the two in front of him.
Look at this, two leaders in the Indy class are in, so they couldn't make it to the end of the race with what was left in the pipes. And I think Punji, who's dropped 12 seconds to them, is going to be diving into the pit lane as well. So this should open things up for Brendan Hyperstar to resume the race lead on lap 38, with Gillen and Greedy Meat falling 3 laps short.
Punju carries on, so Punju's obviously determined to get to the end. And
he's dropping 7 seconds a lap at the moment, so he's clearly in hyper fuel con mode.
But is he doing that in anticipating that Brendan Hyperstar will catch up, but then he can defend? I mean, we've seen some pretty good tactics from Punju so far this season, so who knows? Who knows? Maybe they're even fighting for just a P2 or a P3, and they've just decided to stick it out there. So Brendan Hyperstar, as you said, that you can see visually catching right now, just absolutely on the limit. They will have the advantage of fresher tyres as well with that pit stop. You can see the gap's closed by at least 5 car lengths and whatsoever. It's looking like Punju won't even put up a defence. Round the outside, you can see the lift and coast there. Brendan Hyperstar retakes the lead of the race.
2.5 to go. Hyperstar back up into first position as Punju tries to nurse this as far as he possibly can. If you remember back to the season opener at Road America, Punju ran out of fuel up the hill on the run to the line. Almost had to get out and push his IndyCar over the line. Came home in P2 eventually, but by the whisker, the length of a whisker. Kept that second place in his grasp behind Reska Kyosa, but I think Brendan Hyperstar going to check out now into the distance and confirm and consolidate a second win of the season for himself in the Indy class, the number 10, doing a very strong job, especially since Zayla, well, all of the issues that befell Zayla with the long pit stop, the contact with Gullis and the damage and everything that's just gone wrong in the second half of this race. Battle still for what I think we're still going to call second place, even though Punji occupies it at the moment because they're catching at a rapid rate of knots. This is Solstice, Gillen, Greedy Me. Gillen with the fresher tyres, looks to the outside. Solstice goes defensive, but Gillen, wily old fox, knows what he's doing. Can he try and get the drive out of turn 1 to maybe challenge into 3 up the hill? I don't think he's quite close enough on this occasion. Needs to keep his wits about him, though, because once again, still underneath his rear wing is Greedy Me.
Punju dropped 2 seconds on the main straight to this pack, so he's going to run out of time, really, or run out of distance, is Punju, as they've gained a little bit more. So Solstice under a little bit of pressure here, which won't help the pace particularly. They've done 8 laps on their tyres, so the 2 behind, that's Alex Gillen and Greedy Me, will have the fresh tyres even compared to Solstice. So there is Punju. Punju has been caught already, so they need straight line speed here, and I don't think it's happening. That's Joshima's as well, hampering the pace. Oh, it's been a disaster for Punju. Around the outside goes Solstice. Solstice now gets pushed out, nearly collected by Joshima's Alex Gillen up into P3 at the moment. Solstice rejoins, and now Greedy Me gets blocked by Joshima's. Joshima's not obliged, let's say, to get out of the way. They can just keep their racing line, and look at the speed difference. Punju just too much fuel saving. The strategy has not worked out, and Alex Gillen goes through. Solstice goes through, and Greedy Me will go through as well.
And Cephalosis and was playing with fire there, ducking back into the slipstream of the Mercedes, darting back out over to the right-hand side as well, and does reclaim that second spot with Greedy Me looking to the inside behind Solstice. It was a freebie, wasn't it? Beginning of this contact, round goes Solstice. Was that contact with Greedy Me? Was it the GR86, which was in the thick of the action as well? Whatever happened, it's a podium thrown down the drain for the 27 car. We'll have a look. This is Greedy Me blasting past the GR86, so it wasn't the Toyota Revolt. There's another one coming through. I think it is going to be Greedy Me. No, just drops it on their own. So under pressure there, Solstice braking too late, looping the car around and handing the podium on a silver platter to Greedy Me.
It's a track where you need quite a balanced rear brake bias to get the rotation into these fast-flowing corners, but the problem is, as Alex Gillen gets caught behind the GR86 there in the background, but the problem is that if you really push the tires or the rear tires too hard in the braking zone, you will just spin around. So for Brendan Hyperstar on this final lap, it has been cruise mode. They've been dropping a little bit of time, keeping it safe. But as they round out the final corner, what can you say? It's been a strategy of brilliance. Maybe not the fastest pace today for Brendan Hyperstar, but he's kept it clean, kept it out of problems, and he will cross the line once again to win a race. It's been a tantalising event, but Brendan Hyperstar is the one that has made it all work as he crosses the line and gets the well-deserved champagne. Alex Gillen will cross the line in P2, and it looks like the timing has gone a little bit awry there, so I think that's Greedy Me P3 at the moment, but Solstice might have had a little bit of contact there in the last couple of corners.
I think Solstice catching up to the back of Punju. May have been a little bit of contact there as the 13 was still in hyper fuel con mode. Punju does manage to squeak it over the line, but ended up 10 seconds off the back of Hyperstar, who was the personification of perfection, I think is the best way to put it for Brendan Hyperstar. Second win of the season in class for himself, doing a sterling job, as has this man, Aidan Pole. Didn't get the win last week. First time this season he's failed to see the checkered flag in first, but he rights the wrongs of Indy Road, and he'll come through the final few corners. It wasn't the cleanest race of all time. Turned around on the opening lap, a little bit of contact a couple of times with Sparks as well, but he won't care one jot about it, because for the final time, as he plants his foot to the floor of the Porsche, little bit too wide through the final corner, but once again he won't care, because Aidan Pole will return to the top step. That is 3 out of 4 for him so far this season, and Aidan Pole making that first place his own. The reigning champion Sparks will come home in second behind, 8 seconds off the pace, with L. Bird leading the GR86s round the final corner to make it a win for the first time this season in that GR86 car, with Mir Rose 6 further seconds back down the road.
Confirmation there as well. Josh's corner has finished ahead of Storm Molina. and I think they're very happy about that. They've had a torrid season for the moment in that Ferrari, but it comes good for now, and that's Storm Molina going for the pirouettes. The Winter Olympics isn't over quite yet, and they're having a little bit of a party the other side of the globe in Japan, as you can see the wheel going absolutely crazy as they get rear-ended there. That's Grand Poubert, and it's Des TV that have rammed into the back of the Ferrari. I think that's quite an expensive turn one right there.
That's what you love to see. Josh's Corner delighted with that one as they vault over the tyre wall. We're going to see this celebration again as he's going to fly in to the pack that are just caught up in there. Where it's actually Storm Molina that goes in full metal there. And we can see somebody upside down. Wheels are plenty all over the show. Carbon fibre confetti there, backed into the wall as Des comes through. Then Grand Poubert adds to the action as well. It's the most expensive game of Rush Hour you've ever played. Has just sat on the catch fencing there. One of the GR86s, along with Sparks, who finishes second for the second week running. But that, like I was saying with Josh's Corner, delighted with that third place. And he should be. Was in the lead battle for some time, but held his nerve and does pick up a podium.
Yeah, it's been one of those events, I think, where you've just had to be consistent. We've had events this season which have been purely pace-based, but here it has been something else. Brendan Hyperstar, with utmost consistency, takes the race win with Alex Gillen 5.8 seconds adrift in P2. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. Greedy Me P3 as well, having a great result after a pretty torrid season as well. Punju missing out completely, 10 seconds adrift. He was in the lead of the race with 3 laps to go, but the fuel just couldn't make it to the end. Solstice, after a bit of a topsy-turvy last lap, is in P5. Hayden Gullis, the last of the finishers on the lead lap in P6. Again, that contact with a few laps to go, not helping out. Zella P7 as well, but not finishing the race on track. Aerotech retiring as well before the end, and Scotty Designs sadly meeting an early demise.
100%. We didn't see too much of Scotty after the trials and tribulations of the early stages. From the iRacing cars to the GT3s, it was once again Aidan Pole that finished atop the pile with Sparks third, and Josh's Corner with Sparks second, I should say, and Josh's Corner third. Only 8 finishes. Storm Molina just losing out on that podium, with Grand Poubert and Cephalosis, Joshimas and Des all classified a lap down. But all of them put on a great show, didn't they? And that was a really, really enthralling one to watch. Maybe not the multi-class chaos that we were used to, but some really nice battles out there.
I think it was pretty chaotic from my point of view. So we'll have a look at the GR86s. Elbird takes the race victory by 6.2 seconds from Mia Rose there. That was a heck of a drive, as you could say. And they just cruised out in front. You didn't see them after that. Gosh damn, in P3, the last driver on the lead lap of the GR86s, actually. Carl McGuinness, I think, caught up in that battle with the Indy cars there, with DM Gal P5, Timo P6, Ben Serta P7. Flyer X in P8, the last person with 1 lap down, Osoy in P9, and then Clark P10, 12 laps down, a retiree of the session as well. So you say it wasn't argy-bargy, but looking at the results, there's a lot of cars that came into good contact, let's say.
100%. And another great one. We're going to move straight into the interviews, and once again, returning to the top step, Aidan Pole, we're in the GT3 class. They took it away from you last week, Aidan, but you're back on the top step, and that must be very, very satisfying.
That was super satisfying. That track is so much fun.
And in terms of the result today, there was a little bit of argy-bargy, let's say. So are you satisfied with the race win? Is there something you think maybe I could have done that a bit better?
Yeah, definitely could have made a smarter move. I'm going to have to review on some of what happened. I think there was probably more argy-bargy on both ends than there should have been between Sparks and myself. But we had a second go at it after the safety car, and it was much cleaner. So I feel like we had redemption with each other.
You've obviously driven a couple of different cars this season. You were in the Corvette early on, now you're in the Porsche. Just for people that are watching, what are the main differences between those cars? Maybe how do you have to adjust your own driving style?
So the main differences that I notice is the Corvette is mid-engine, so you're going to have a more stable car over an entire stint, and better weight on both of your outside tires making a corner. as opposed to the Porsche, which is rear engine. So you're really relying on utilizing the weight of the rear ends to get power down to the ground because it's sitting right on top of the rear wheels, which is great, but you don't have so much grip on your front tires. And the steering rack, if anybody's ever driven either of them, I'll give a quick example. The Corvette looks like this when you're turning, and the Porsche looks like this. So it's like you turn a lot more in the Porsche, which I personally enjoy. But yeah, very different cars, very different styles, but both super fun.
You were carrying the weight equivalent of a beaver in terms of weight, sort of ballast performance in the car this time out. Was that an effect on your performance, or did you not notice it at all?
Definitely noticed it on the straights. There's a couple of places as well where you don't actually get into the next gear that I would without a weight ballast. I typically would hit fifth gear heading towards turn 2. I didn't get close to it a single time. So the straight line speed is down significantly. You really feel it when you're chasing somebody and they're just like kind of pulling away from you, even if you get a good exit. So it's something to work with. But it's like it's fun to get used to. You have to make adjustments to the way you drive the car, angles of exits and such to maximize your result with it.
From the multi-class perspective, was this either more or less chaotic from a lapping car perspective or point of view from the previous few races?
It was like very calm, and then for 2 minutes it was like the world was crashing down around you. I think at one point I was like 4 wide with 3 Indy cars and I was just bouncing between them. I honestly have no idea what happened in any of the multi-class madness. I typically have somebody in my ear telling me like, okay, car coming up. I had none of that today, so it was just like you would get hit a bunch for 2 minutes and then you're clear. It was insane. I got very lucky not to have died multiple times in that.
We combined the games across the Creator Series here. We've got iRacing and Pinball, apparently, this time out. But in terms of the next tracks, of course, there's great points for a championship. But how do you think the performance is going to either improve or be more difficult across the next tracks with that additional weight?
I think that weirdly, Daytona is typically a car where the Porsche is the best because of the way it takes curbs. But with the weight and how long of straights, the oval on that track, I feel like that's going to hurt a lot. And that was really the only place left, I feel like, where the Porsche was really strong. Fuji was one of them. So to get a good result here was important. But I feel like should Suelio turn up to the next races, Suelio, excuse me. I actually messaged him and I think he just missed this race, which is fantastic for me. Extends my lead dramatically. And I might need that.
Wow. Fingers crossed that we can see some more lovely battles between yourself and Suelio for the rest of the season. Thank you for dropping by. Congratulations on yet another victory for yourself. And we'll see you in a week's time for the special event, hopefully.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Aiden. Now, from the winner of the GT3s, we're going to head over to the winner of the IndyCars. Once again, a multiple winner from this season. Brendan Hyperstar jumping in. Brendan, from the outside, it looked like for the majority of that race, you had it pretty much covered. Maybe at the end where there were the slightly differing fuel strategies, you just have to think on your feet a little bit.
Yeah, I was like kind of yelling, screaming internally because I was starting to think it was a Road America situation of the first race of the season, the question came out right in the middle of the window, where it was a pretty relatively easy save for IndyCar standards. And I finished like 4th in that race, and I was kicking myself because I knew I could have saved the fuel and kept my pace there. So when I came out here, I brought up my dash. I'm like, yeah, that's a big save if you pit right away. And I was already at the front. I was only on like 4 lap old reds, so they still had pace in them, plus clean air. So I figured I might as well just stay out, build a gap, and see what happens, because I kind of made my bed there. And thankfully it worked out. But I was about to get really almost irrationally upset, but it worked out in the end.
We saw a lot of contact today between, various cars and car classes. How much of a benefit to you was it to keep it clean and sort of avoid the incidents? Was it more to do with your pace, or was it more the consistency today that won the race?
I definitely, I wouldn't say it was a definite pace advantage, because like the beginning stint, the times are pretty equal to me in the leader. So And they were doing great in traffic as well. So I think what it eventually kind of came down to was, I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, but Zila, the leader at the time, they pitted, and I guess they got a speeding penalty or maybe an unsafe pit entrance because you have to keep within those lines in the that little S section entries. So, and after that, I had a pace gap to the rest of the field, and then, yeah, I was ultimately able to control the red tire pace as well. That was my main concern, was especially in the third sector, you can easily roast your fronts, and you're already roasting your rears in the 2/3 of the beginning of the track. So, when I was on like the worn reds and blowing away, I knew I had a pretty good advantage.
We spoke to Hayden before the race started. He said that he felt that on this configuration of circuit, it might be a little bit harder getting past the GT3s in particular, maybe less so the GR86s. From your perspective, did you struggle with that any more or less than the past couple of weeks?
Oh, yeah, 100% he's right. Because the GT cars reach the same top end speed that the Indy cars do. We reach our top end speed like right at the pit out, and they reach their top end speed right at their braking marks. So it's, for like a grade 1 circuit, it's one of the longest straightaways, and it was pretty much equal top speed. And then the last sector, I mean, that's all mechanical grip, and it was basically the same pace from GT cars and Indy cars. Indy cars obviously slightly faster in acceleration, so you had to kind of wait behind them and then just gun it out of corner exit, hoping they just take their normal line, like kind of standard multi-class racing. And all the lower classes were doing that too, so I didn't have too much trouble. I think there's like only one time where I did make contact with a car, but like I'm sending this tiny little car into I think it's the turn that's called Coca-Cola. It's right before 100 R, where the Toyota had no idea I was there and turned in, and that was really the only like negative interaction I had. But that one was clearly on me because there's no way he could have seen me.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of drivers referencing the long, fast-flowing corners are very difficult to spot, especially in the GT3 cars, because some of them have screens on their dash which impede the vision. Looking forwards, though, we have the special events coming up with the cross carts. Are you looking forward to that one? Are we going to see your participation in that one? And have you done any practice in that?
Oh yeah, I'll be there. When the cross cart came out, I just posted a video of it driving on like asphalt tracks and saying like, I don't care that this thing's like an off-road car. I'm making this like my own mini Indy car. It almost sounds like one, even though it's just a motorcycle engine and Indy car's a V6 turbo, right? But so I haven't actually done any really serious racing with it. The first track I drove it was like the Tsukuba 1000 track, which is almost a go-kart track. It's that small, so. No, I'm looking forward to it. I really do enjoy that car. It's a challenge, and I don't think I'm going to be the fastest one in that car next week, so we're going to have to really earn a good finishing position with that.
Well, hopefully it'll be a hell of a lot of fun, I think is the best way to put it. Thank you for chatting to us this evening. Brendan, congratulations on yet another victory for yourself, and next week, wish you the best of luck in what might be a little bit chaotic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brendan, and that pretty much wraps things up for us. We're going to have a quick look at the standings to see how things have changed, and it has just closed up ever so slightly with that Brendan Hyperstar victory in the Indy class. They himself and Chance will move up into joint second place as Resicioso and Ancephalosis remain 5 points away from Hayden Gullis and Sueli Almeida. 83 problems, but a corner ain't one. Level with Spark by Designs, by the way. Polnoodle.sim still there in 6th, but only 20 points down. If you look from 1st to 8th, John, very, very tight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this championship could go any way at all. And it just happens that some drivers maybe don't participate in one race, and it just closes the pack up once again. So that's extra spicy. And it just emphasizes how in a team you have to have two drivers regularly scoring points. I was saying about Ancephalosis having a bad race. He had a good race today. And that means that the points they're in joint second place at the moment. They're right back in it. And so approaching the half distance in the championship, it still can go anybody's way, I think.
Second half of the season is going to be fascinating, isn't it? Because when you've got so many contenders and so many external variables with the team aspect, That could be a lot of fun. Make sure you tune in every Thursday to this series for the rest of season 3. But that is pretty much it from us this week. Thank you ever so much for spending your morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world, with us watching some classic multi-cart chaos. Before we go, John, where can people find you on the old social medias if you are interested in what you are up to?
Well, you can find me crashing into a tree for a start. That's my usual thing. Or commentators cursing someone, which is also my second thing. You can find me anything that is amusing, and it usually involves some sort of car crashing, so you'll be sure to see me there.
Excellent news. Make sure you get on that one. If you're interested to see what I'm doing, Wilco.coms on Instagram and TikTok. We'll be back next week for the first of 2 special events, the Cross-Kart Carnage. That should be a barnstorm. And then 2 weeks' time, the main championship resumes as we stay in Japan at Okayama. Another very technical circuit. Very interesting to see which car will come out on top, which driver will be suited most to the needs and the desires of that configuration of Sega. But thank you very much for watching us this evening. Make sure you check out next week's special event. But from myself and John, we will see you very, very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and it is goodbye from us.
Racing isn't just a game. It's a way of life. Every lap, every moment. Practice is about consistency. Winning doesn't come easy.
Yo! My turn, Bubba.
Feel the road. Own the race. Logitech G wheels and pedals available now on Amazon.
Hey, now's the time, the kid on the rise, the top spot, when I see it, it's mine, I celebrate, yeah, I'm taking them fine, I can't tame, can't put me in line, gotta focus, standing on business, it's no emotion, full speed with it, can I coast to the championship, brain toast.
Welcome to week number 2 of the Great Lakes Gauntlet in the Irish Hills of Michigan. 39 drivers are looking to cruise to victory and take home $3 grand in scholarships.
The time is now, whenever I can't look back.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to iRacing's coverage of Week 2 for the fourth tournament in the 2025-26 eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by Play vs. College League. The Great Lakes Gauntlet, live from the virtual Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn, Michigan. An incredibly exciting night we have on our hands here at the Irish Hills. I'm James Pike, joined this evening by Taylor Burris and Joe Peak. Taylor, Michigan is fast, it is wide, it is full of plenty of places where you can find chaos, but it's also a track that can produce some really great racing too.
It certainly can, James, and it's going to provide with some great racing action for us here tonight for each and one of these college drivers representing their colleges, looking to try to find a way to prevent the Great North from basically dominating this season with, of course, Connor Yarashak and the Dinos are really putting on a drive, but we have a couple of other heavy hitters coming out to play here today, and they're going to put on a show for us for sure.
Names like Clampett and White and Nanny and a whole host more, Joe P, going to try and stop Connor Yarashak from going 3 for 3 in 4 tournaments in this season.
They've got their work cut out for them, but like we keep saying, this is a place where anything can happen. I think the big thing also is going to be looking at your momentum out there. We'll often see them take so many different lines, but that high side is a huge slingshot off of the corners.
High side showed a lot of speed last week. We'll see which drivers were taking notes and paying attention, whether or not that factors in this week as well. But plenty of storylines that we'll be watching over the course of the next maybe hour and a half or 2 or so as we work our way from 39 drivers to 25. And then ultimately to 1 driver that will take home the Great Lakes Gauntlet. This is our tournament bracket for the Great Lakes Gauntlet. We have started last week by covering all the races represented by boxes in yellow and red and blue. So this week is exclusively about the orange. What does that mean? 3 semifinals in which the top 5 drivers advance. The rest of the field will go to an LCQ. 1 race from which the top 10 will advance, and that will give us our 15 plus 10. That will make up the 25 drivers that will go after it in the finale for the right to claim $3,000 of scholarship money and be the champion of the Great Lakes Gauntlet. That is what's on the line for these drivers. Taylor Burris, let's review how we're getting there tonight.
Well, we had a preliminary round of qualifiers here where 310 schools registered, 120 drivers separated by less than 1/10 of a second. We're battling it out there. We moved on to the first round of the tournament where we took 120, dropped it down to 39, and tonight we're going to take those 39 and, just like we said, drop it to 25 drivers to make the final race, where the top 6 earn a little bit of scholarship money, which will come in handy for each one of these drivers here today.
Scholarship money is the big piece, points are the big piece. Now, that's something I think worth noting, Joe Peak, is that every driver is going to score points tonight if they made it into week 2 towards the season-long standings, but obviously you're going to get more points if you can make it directly into the final.
Maximize your results. That's always key in racing. You want to try and get the most points you possibly can each and every time. Sounds obvious, but it's always easier said than done.
A lot easier said than done, I think, especially when you got so many talented drivers in this field. Let's take a look at our locator. We'll show you which race we are going to start with. It's the first semifinal that is on tap. You've seen these names. You've seen these drivers. You're about to see them get after it. Parker White on pole. Matthew Morton from The Ohio State University would love to take some territory and some wins from that place up north, as they like to call it in the Buckeye State. Jonathan Evans, Abraham Vila, Adam Garza, Jack Stoneman from UNOH, also in the first 3 rows.
Jake Inez from Belmont Alby College, alongside Jeremy Burns from Longwood University, Jacob Bradley from Purdue University, Indianapolis, and Lane Graves from Wichita State University. Round out your top 10 with Timothy Holmes and Connor Berkey in row 6. And of course, Faraz Khan from the UC Santa Cruz Banana Slugs will be the final driver in this semifinal 1.
Top 5 are going to have the opportunity to get after it and get into it. Taylor Burris, for the first time this evening, let's look at our Logitech G race analysis.
Absolutely, James. We're going to have 15 laps around here, 30 miles. It's a fixed setup, so it's all based on the driver's skill. We're going to take the top 5 to advance to the finals here tonight. Well, then 6 through 13, you got a second chance in the LCQ.
One chance if you don't get it here, but you really want to try and be top 5, and that's where I think the battle is going to be. That's where I think our eyes are going to be for a good chunk of this Joe Peak. I'm looking right where Jack Stoneman, Adam Garza, Jake Innes, Jeremy Burns, all drivers that are right on the edge of this that are going to have to try and race their way in. They're going to have to pass a few trucks in order to lock in a spot into the finale. While we are waiting for these drivers to take to this track for their lone, call it 3/4 of a lap before we go green flag racing. A reminder that iRacing Arcade, the all-new arcade racing title from iRacing Studios and Original Fire Games, will receive its long-awaited release on Steam Tuesday, March 3rd, $24.99. You can go ahead and pre-order it on Steam now. Console release coming later this summer. That game looks like it is going to be an absolute blast. Joe Peak.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm probably going to be one of those that gets it right at release, and I've been enjoying the demo. You can go and play it free for now if you want, but the full thing coming up very soon on March 3rd. So mark your calendars, add it to your wish list, of course.
You also play the demo now if you want. So if you want a little taste of what's coming, if you want an opportunity to potentially get a feel for what is going to come or not, go ahead, download the demo, see what's what. In the meantime, Parker White, representing the University of Maine at Augusta, is going to lead this field to green. Matthew Morton, Jonathan Evans. Here's the thing, Taylor. Just looking at this group, every single person in this semifinal has some form of college series experience.
Absolutely, James. Every single one of them has made it to the finals one way or another, whether it be this year or in previous seasons. So we're talking about some of the top colleges going head-to-head.
Getting ready to get after it for 15 laps of racing in the Irish Hills of Michigan. Parker White leading the field to green, representing the University of Maine at Augusta. Pace car makes the hard left-hand turn down onto pit road. White gets going. We are off and away, and it actually wasn't the best start for Parker White. Matthew Morton able to hang decently to the outside of White's Toyota Tundra as these trucks begin to come up to full song with Joe Peak.
Yeah, and it'll take a little bit before the momentum is fully up there, so you're going to see them hang out low on this first lap, but then it will drift up a little bit like we were mentioning before as they try to use that slingshot maneuver. But these trucks also like to get super loose throughout the session. This is going to be short, but you will see them try to just hold on to that rubber a little bit.
How low can you go, I think, is going to be a really big question for a lot of these drivers, Taylor Burris, because we saw the outside lane carry a ton of speed, especially as these races progressed and these drivers got more worn-out tires. Really, it was the middle and the outside that found the speed once we really got rolling into these races.
Yeah, it really did as we go on board with Parker White here. He's going to stick to the bottom because of how fresh those tires are, hugging that yellow line and that paint. But then we'll start to work his way up through the track. When we get into the longer races of this later on here today, get a nice push down the back straightaway from the drivers here as Matthew Morton to the front of the field.
Matthew Morton in control of this by maybe a truck length and a half over Parker White. Jack Stoneman with a good run. Abraham Vila there. We saw him not afraid to use the rear decklet of his truck to get a spot. There goes Stoneman doing the same thing through the block on Jeremy Burns. Adam Garza not really with anywhere to go. Jake Innes right up on the wall as they work their way back to turn one.
Yeah, right now I think these drivers who are second, third, fourth, and fifth, they're not panicking. You still got a little bit of time. And, of course, you have to remember, you got to watch that cut line. That is where you want to be. If you don't win it, it's not the worst thing in the world. It'll help you come the feature, but it's a risk versus reward. How much do you really want to get up that 1, 2, 3 spots?
How much do you try and push it? How much do you drop underneath somebody to try and complete a pass versus holding that high line where we're seeing a lot of these drivers go? Parker White's not afraid to make a move to the inside of Matthew Morton. He goes for the race lead. Everybody tucked in the line behind him.
Great pass down to the bottom of the racetrack for Parker White. Morton staying in that second groove. Everyone else moving up to third or fourth lanes here around this circuit as they head down the back straightaway. Morton gets a good run off corner exit. Gonna push Parker White. He wants to try to work with him, get some separation, and make it a two-horse race.
Parker White continuing to pace this field now. He's gotten Morton by a truck length. Stoneman, Vila, Innes in line, and then a great battle. Jeremy Burns, Jonathan Evans, Timothy Holmes. They're all looking for spots. They're 3 wide in the middle of this pack.
You're going to see a lot of this. Most likely is things got a little bit tense back there with Burns at the bottom of that trio. Remember what we said. You really probably don't want to be running the bottom line for too long because the truck is going to get quite squirrely. I do love this about these college races. They get watch parties going. Look at this. Belmont has a whole bunch of fans all there. And eventually they're going to notice that they're actually on screen here.
Exactly. Yeah, there's the reaction from a lot of the students at Belmont Abbey College and Belmont, North Carolina. Neat story with the rig on Jake Innes. Over the course of the past week, the program got together and they went out and they got all the equipment. And over the past 48 hours, they built the rig that Innes is driving in now and trying to race his way into a top 5 spot, the automatic place in the finals. Timmy Holmes looking to the inside, but again, Taylor Burris, we're seeing it, that outside lane. Even if you might not necessarily have the outright speed, if you can push your truck up there, it makes it really hard to complete a pass at the bottom. And Holmes sees that. He follows suit, just tucks back in line.
Yeah, it really is. That truck's going to get a lot more tighter as this race progresses. How about this down to the bottom lane? Graves fighting with Timothy Holmes for the 6th spot, trying to see if he can get the 2-for-1 special, getting around Jake Innes for the 5th position. So far, can't quite clear him, but now here comes the run back on the outside.
Everybody looking for spots here. That's the hard thing. You can get down to the bottom, but it's almost like you're sort of falling out of the draft as if you were in a plate track almost. And if you're going to complete a pass, you are really going to have to send it. That's exactly what Timmy Holmes did. No hesitation with the big stomp there in the middle of the corner to get the spot and move into the top 5.
I really think that Jake Innes, and like you said, with that new rig, is a testimony that you don't need the top-end equipment, even though it can help a little bit. Before that rig, he was racing not from a desk, from a dresser that he had attached his wheel and set up to.
And look at Innes chasing down, just trying to stay on the wheel well at Timmy Holmes. There might be something to that. It was really impressive for Holmes to go down to the bottom and make the pass the way he did. As Innes continues to work that high line, Jonathan Evans looking to the inside. Vila now in the mix, but still just a big fight there right around the transfer spot.
Drivers now working their way through as we watch on, hitting down into the corner, watching as Holmes tries to get himself a little bit of a cushion as he goes to the inside of Abraham Vila along with Jack Stoneman, who's having a great run with 8 laps to go here. It's going to be critical to see what they can do, but that outside lane, so much stronger on this run-off corner exit. It's really difficult for him as we go on board with Jonathan Evans, who's in the catbird seat, ready to capitalize on any one of these drivers who makes a mistake.
Lane Graves trying to find a spot on the inside. Contact between Vila and Stoneman, who clips the fence. There goes Innes. There goes Evans underneath. That might just move Stoneman out of the top 5. Here comes Innes looking to the inside for a spot all the way on the bottom underneath Vila and Timmy Holmes.
These big checkups are like blood in the water, and you can see it as we get loosed out at the bottom. Holmes was the one on the move. Now suddenly everybody just has that great opportunity with that moment off of 2 and just duck underneath him. He's going to have the better run coming off the corner. I think Timmy Holmes, though, is definitely the one that's caught my eye here at this point in this heat.
So you got Innes working the bottom, just not a run that you can see that truck getting loose underneath. And you see the run that Vila got. You see the run that Evans got. You see Garza making contact as he bounces into Stoneman. He gets into Innes. Just no room there on the bottom to keep one of these runs. And I think we're starting to hit that point, Taylor, where you really have to be able to roll momentum and you really have to have saved something because you just can't quite get the runs on that inside lane the way that some of these drivers were a few laps ago.
The only thing that can help you is if you have some help behind you on those straightaways on the backstretch, especially if you have someone go down there with you, work with you on there to get around. But other than that, you're pretty much just sitting duck out there, and unfortunately, tough break. We'll have to try to recoup and retry again into turn 3 and 4. As one driver hits the wall, that's Jack Stoneman, and a big-time save from Jake Innes.
Innes got wiggly, Stoneman got wiggly. They both, I think, got the fence there coming out of 2 that last time by. And that exit in turn 2, that sneaks up on you, Joe P. That's something we saw consistently from the drivers in this field throughout all of our groups last week. Once they got tight, if they just didn't quite hit their exits, they could tank slap the wall with the right rear and cost themselves a spot or 2. And Stoneman's going to get into Evans, and those two are going to wreck on the front straightaway and take out a whole bunch of drivers behind.
Holy cow, that unfortunately was a little bit silly if you ask me, but a lot of drivers paid the price, and with no cautions in these heat races, that means that a number of drivers have a much easier time at advancing now.
It spread out the field. It now means that the battle is going to be between Jacob Bradley and Jake Innes. So Bradley trying to run down Innes and get the final automatic transfer spot. Innes trying to hang on to it, maybe catch a draft from Abraham Vila. The first 3 trucks or so, and Vila too, truthfully, he's not too far back. They're all pretty well tucked in behind each other, and they understand that if they finish top 5, they're going to the finale. It doesn't matter where they end up. They can sort of race their way in depending on where they are.
Here we take a look at the replay of what happened here. Hopefully they'll be smart, but Evans, you see on the bottom right here, trying to see what happens, and then there you see Stoneman just come down, make the contact. Did not think he was clear, apparently, and unfortunately collects several heavy hitters in this heat race. Faraz Khan out of it as well.
Truthfully, I'm not sure if Stoneman recognized that Evans was down there. The way that truck turned down, I think he thought he was completely clear and that there was absolutely nothing else in it. I don't know, Joe, did you see anything differently?
Yeah, we got some information on that. It sounds like Jack had a game freeze, unfortunately. So that was a little bit out of his hands. That's why it looked so odd out there. I was kind of with you, that, and why I described it as silly. It just seemed really unusual to make a mistake like that.
It's a different kind of silly, right? Not necessarily a driver error, but sometimes that happens. It's sort of the equivalent of a mechanical breakdown here. Every once in a while, if your PC screws up, same way that your engine might screw up, it happens in big-time auto racing, no matter where you are. This is Purdue University in Indianapolis. This is Jacob Bradley. You see the gap to 7th place. So this is 6 trucks fighting for 5 spots. That's pretty consistent. I don't think there's anything sort of off about that as Abraham Vila ducked to the inside. This is a game of how much do you want to try and get one more spot, and is it worth it to try and make that jump as we get to the final lap here?
So far, it's going to be a mix of see how this all plays out. You guys, this is where we're going to see it between Vila and Bradley. How aggressive is Bradley going to send it into turn 3 and 4? Those top 4 don't need to worry about it. Here comes Bradley. Looks to see if he can go around the outside, and Vila hugs the bottom, trying to keep as much speed and take the short way around the course.
Can he hold off Jacob Bradley coming to the stripe? Got a little bit loose out of turn number 4. A good feint out finish. Parker White is going to win the semifinal. Abraham Vila is going to hold them off. And Jacob Bradley's going to have work to do in the LCQ. But Parker White will be racing for the $6,000. To see Jake Innes and the Belmont Abbey contingent applauding his efforts. He qualifies for his first final in this college series in the 2025-26 season. And Parker White will be there. And a whole host of others will be there as well, including Matthew Morton and Timothy Holmes and Abraham Vila. Along with Innes and White, those 5 going automatically to the finals. Everybody from Jacob Bradley on down going to be headed to the LCQ.
Tough break for those drivers here, especially for Evans and Khan, so we'll see how it goes.
Off we go into our second semifinal then. No time to waste and a lot of action to bring your way as well. And 13 more drivers trying to make their way into the top 5. And they are led by Kettering University's Maverick Davis, who will start on pole. Matthew Zwack won this one. It was a single race last season, trying to win the tournament on home turf. I know that would mean a ton to him as a Michigan Wolverine. Connor Yarashak, points leader, up there in the top 6 as well.
From there, of course, we've got Daniel Falkingham starting from 7th, Connor Trafari in P8, Jake Cummings there for Converse University in 9th, Malachi Drake for Liberty will be rounding out your top 10. Chris Treppa then from the 11th position sees Blake win to his outside. And then the last car is going to be Michael Pollock starting from 13th, all trying to vie for those top 5 spots.
13 drivers trying to make it into 5. Taylor Burris, let's look at our Logitech T-Track analysis once again.
Well, we're going to continue on with this trend. 15 laps around the circuit. Top 5 will advance to the final round. 6th through 13th, well, you're going to head over to the LCQ where you get one final attempt before it's back to class for you, and we'll see you in a month's time.
Next step, if you can't make it through the LCQ, is the Great Lakes Gauntlets coming your way, or rather the Old Dominion Classic from Martinsville. We are in the Great Lakes Gauntlet. We've got lots of fun to come at Martinsville and Homestead, Miami. There's plenty more action to come your way, and if you register now by scanning the QR code at the bottom of your screen, you can register to race for over $60,000 in scholarship prizes, and you can visit pcl.tg/pages/NASCAR for more information on how to get involved and how to potentially become a driver, a competitor, and the eNASCAR College iRacing Series, powered by Play vs. College League. Pace car beginning to roll. Trucks beginning to make their move onto the high banks here at Michigan. And another 15 laps for this group of 15 to whittle it down to 5. Just absolute firepower, though, amongst these top 5. Davis, Zwack, Alt, who's a former Coke Series driver, Yarashak, who's a Coke Series driver, and Jose Solis Jr., who won his group. So this is arguably, this could be the most stacked of the 3 semifinals, I think, Taylor. Very real possibility we're looking at that here.
Very much really, indeed. We're going to see one of these drivers possibly be your champion for the eNASCAR College iRacing Series out of this group. And, I mean, it's still anyone's game of who can come out on top, but this is a class, I got to say, where we're going to see it really come out, especially with our defending winner right there in the hunt as well.
Matthew Zwack, you have to believe, as a Michigan man, it means a little bit more to him to try and get the victory here, that there's got to be a little bit extra motivation to try and defend home turf for the maize and blue and be the victor that their fight song references so much. Hail to the victors. I think he'd love for this evening to end hail to Matthew Zwack, would he not?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but it's always a little bit easier to feel confident coming in. I think it's a lot more difficult when they get underway, as we're about to hit 200 miles an hour around here.
Lots of speed coming your way at Michigan. Green flag out. The restarts are a little bit more even this week. I've noticed that immediately because Maverick Davis has been able to get out. Big move there from Daniel Falkingham further back. He got all the way out to block Jake Cummings and kept him at bay and somehow hung on to his truck too. I thought for a moment he might be going sideways into the grass alongside the front straightaway. In the meantime, though, contact there with Zwack and Davis, and they somehow kept it pointed in the right direction. They almost got turned around before we even got halfway through the first lap.
Falkingham throwing a block like he was at Daytona in the O'Reilly Series, what we saw from Austin Hill. So he is definitely coming out here to showcase he wants a shot at taking the top spot. But for Matthew Zwack, he's going to try to pull away and maybe have to block all 3 lanes as they come across the line. 3 wide for the top spot here for the transfer as they head down into turn number 1.
You love the track position that you had with Matthew Zwack. You hate the fact that you're going to have maybe 2 or 3 lanes with runs on you at some point when they do finally get back to him. Zwack with a little bit of a tighter angle all from turn 2 to make sure he didn't clip the fence. That does cut down your top end speed at the end of the back straightaway, but it also makes sure you don't run the right and rear into the fence either. And that could be equally as important the later on we get into the semifinal jump.
Yeah, and I'm a bit surprised that we saw that sort of aggression. I mean, literally as they crossed the line, that was in stark contrast to what we saw in heat number 1. So this is definitely its own little beast that we've got out here. And it's kind of no surprise. I think we've got 5 of our top 10 in points in this heat right now.
This is Jake Cummings who rides last. You can see Matthew Zwack in his shot who rides first. That is how close it is between this bunch. There is not a lot of separation between this group. So the Converse University driver out of Pofftown, North Carolina. Normally it's the town there that gets you tripped up. Apparently it's opposite day for me. But Cummings still with an opportunity to race his way at least in a better starting position to the LCQ, if not maybe the top 5 outright. Who knows? We did not think it would get as crazy as it did in the middle of semifinal number 1. Taylor Burris, I think we now have to be on watch for that kind of potential to take place in either semifinal number 2 or number 3.
I have to agree with you on that, James. I think when we get closer to the end of this race, we're going to see a little bit of desperation from some of our drivers outside looking in. We're seeing that right here, 3 wide battling for that 5th position, and Daniel Falkingham will be able to hold it. Dylan Alt along with Chris Treppa make their way around. Dylan Basin, your Daytona or your Charlotte winner not too long ago.
On board with Maverick Davis, a Michigan man as well, out of Swartz Creek, now stuck on that inside line. You can see the run that the outside lane gets, especially coming down the front straightaway. You carry all that speed, all that momentum, and you get that much draft help, and you can lose 2 or 3 spots just between the start-finish line and the entry to turn 1.
I think Maverick was not comfortable with the way this was starting to shape up. He got shuffled from the pole back to 5th in just the first couple laps. In fact, he's going now farther back into 7th. He was trying to make some moves forward, but like I said, that bottom line not working, and now he's stuck in the middle, ping-ponging between trucks, and he's going to get involved in an accident. Others are going to fly by the wayside. He'll get away with it, but the momentum is gone.
3 does not go into 2, but the battle for a spot in the top 5 still pretty strong. We lost a few trucks in that for sure. Wynn and Drake and Treppa definitely affected by that, but Dylan Basin now in control of the transfer spot. He's got Michael Pollock out of McEwen University trying to fight him for the last transfer spot.
If I was Zwack, Yarashek, Falkingham, and Trafari, I would just try to run away, not worry about what's going on, just try to separate yourself.
Good look at the leaders here. Still 1, 2, 3. Battle a little bit further back. This is a look at what happened between Treppa and Maverick Davis. Dylan Basin was there. Dylan Alt was there. This all starts a little bit further into turn 4, so keep an eye here. Maverick Davis, the Kettering University driver, he comes up the racetrack, and then Treppa tries to go for it and make a move, and eventually, boom.
Yeah, and I think he maybe tried that send a little bit too hard on the second time around, stuck in the middle. Need a little bit more clear track for that. Like I said, I mean, he's still running, but the damage was done. He's down in 10th. He is a second and a half off the lead, and now playing catch-up with just a handful of laps to go.
He'd need a big incident from these top 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 drivers to have a shot at making it directly into the final and avoiding the LCQ. Matthew Zwack continuing to lead on board here with Connor Trafari, the Bluffton, South Carolina native, representing the Charlotte 49ers, currently 1 spot outside the transfer zone, looking for the spot on Michael Pollock, but nowhere to go up high, so he'll just try and ride the tire tracks and carry momentum off the corner to get a good run down the front stretch.
Oh, Solis's right there on the bottom. He finally finds an opening to clear and go behind him, but it's going to be a tough grind for him as he now tries to push Michael Pollock as they head into turn number 1. He's got to find a way quickly around to lose time.
Can you force the issue on Pollock? Can you force Pollock to burn up the right rear a lot? That's exactly what I think he tried to do. Pollock lost the air on the rear decklet that created an opportunity for Trafari to get underneath. But can Trafari complete this pass? He's going to have to send it and almost pull the infamous slide job Chicagoland style to get the spot, but he's not clear of Pollock enough. And this may open an opportunity from Jose Solis Jr., or he might just fence Pollock to try and get the position. They're still side by side, and Jose Solis Jr. may take advantage of it and go 3 wide and pass both of them to get into the top 5.
And that has allowed Maverick Davis to kind of catch this pack as well. So he's now back in the mix. But Trafari's probably used to racing in these close quarters conditions. He comes from a karting background and has even won championships in that realm in real world racing.
Michael Pollock out of Leduc County, Alberta, representing the Griffins of McEwen University. 6th as it stands on the board. He's going to have to make a move. Jose Solis Jr. has been flying back up through this field, though. Back to where he started in the top 5. Pollock's had a great run, too, though. Up 7 spots from his starting position of 13th. He was dead last on this grid. He has done a nice job taking advantage of the chaos to race his way up through the field.
Connor had a big slap against the outside of turn 4 there. I think he got into Dylan Alt in the process. So we watch those top 5 once again, and still working out well for Matthew Zwack. Everybody behind him fighting so hard. He's still up at the point. He's being caught, but they're tripping over each other when they could be trying to challenge him to the victory, or just simply solidifying this pass. And look at Falkingham. Falkingham not happy with this whole situation. I don't think he likes the ferocity of this.
I'm not a great lip reader here, Taylor Burris, but you can see the frustration for sure. And I don't know whether or not that's I can't believe that the runs are so strong where they're coming from, or I can't believe we're racing like this in the top 5 when all of us, as it stands, are guaranteed spots in the final. Let's all make the final and not have to worry about the LCQ. Maybe that's his thing.
I mean, that or just, it's like you said, it's a little bit of that aggressive driving seeing here, especially from the drivers from 4th on up. I mean, they're guaranteed. It's really Jose Salas Jr. and Michael Pollock who need to be battling it out, but Salas Jr. going around the outside of Falkingham.
Jose Salas Jr. now in the top 5 with a great run. Matthew Swack now coming up top here to try and make the stop.
Look at 8th place, Dylan all on the outside looking in. He could possibly be sent to the LCQ. That is not a good look. He's got to find a way to push forward with these final 3 laps.
Here's the onboard from Dylan Ault out of Sacramento, California, trying to get back up to that lead group. A little bit of a gap with 3 laps to go. Trafari stuck in the bottom. Pollock up top. Both of them outside the top 5. Everybody trying to get closer to the fence. That outside lane's had speed. Look at Jake Cummings, though, with a drive on the bottom to get the spot away from Ault. Ault will have the run down the front straightaway. Can Cummings block it entering turn 1?
Yeah, this is where you got to start making some of those strategic moves out here. But the more they try and battle each other, the harder it's going to be to catch those in front. It is a difficult tightrope to walk as we're going to get more cars wrecking out right at the very end off of the ever dangerous turn 2.
Pollock got a little bit too loose underneath. I believe that was Dylan Ault in the fence. He goes to the LCQ. He goes. Trafari and Jose Solis Jr. now in the paddle for the final transfer spot. The front 4 in a pretty good place, so it's these 2 that we get to watch here on the last lap of the semifinal.
It's going to be a drag race here as they work their way across the line. It's going to give it to Jose Salas Jr. as they head into turn number 1. Trafari is going to have to be the lone survivor. If he doesn't make it, no drivers from UNC Charlotte will make it to the finals.
Oh, what a move there from Trafari, sideways and everything, trying to pull the slider there on Jose Solis Jr., who read it beautifully and went immediately down to the bottom with the run he was getting out of turn 2. So now it's Solis' turn to try and throw the slider on Trafari and lock down a spot in the finals. Leaders on the top portion of your screen, transfer on the bottom. They make contact door to door through the corner. Contact again. Sully's trying to fence Trafari. Trafari with the run out of turn 4 at the line. It is going to be Connor Trafari who makes it in. You can see the celebration there by 1/10 of a second. Actually, no, less than that. Excuse me. 2 1/1000ths of a second, perhaps.
Yeah, it was extremely tight. There was inches between them across the line, but that's going to make Euroshak, Zwack, Falkingham Basin, and Trafari are advancing drivers. Solis is unfortunately going to be sent off to the last chance qualifier. We'll see if he can advance up, but definitely some big names down there. Dylan Ault, Maverick Davis as well, that will have to try and make their way in the hard way.
Checking them out there, 1/100th of a second officially between Trafari and Solis for the last transfer spot. As we now look at semifinal number 3, where Aaron Brown of Eastern Shore Community College will lead this field to green. Nick Dyer in there, Jackson Anderson, Nathan Scott. A lot of opportunity, I think, in this semifinal.